Chapter 624. Han Fei didn't have a good temper. To be precise, among the five of them, even Luo Xiaobai didn't have a good temper. Only Lu Renquang had a relatively good temper. In front of Han Fei, these people were talking about Xia Xiaochan and Luo Xiaobai? How could Han Fei tolerate this? Son of a bitch, you're courting death. Puff. Next to him, a burly armorist had just stood up when he felt a chill on his back. In the next second, a dagger stabbed him in the stomach 4 or 5 times in a row. He fell to the ground with a dumbfounded look. The other two people's faces changed drastically and they immediately took out their weapons. However, the two of them were still too slow. One person's legs were tied up by vines, and the other was pincered by Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei. He was hit in the head with a brick and stabbed 3 times in the stomach. Han Fei stepped on the young man's face. Come on. Try smiling again. In the club, there was silence at first, followed by cheers. Someone shouted, "Get up, beat them." Someone laughed. "Stand up if you're a man." Someone was speechless. Are 3-star little guys so arrogant now? The law enforcement team has nothing to do every day. Today, we can finally give them something to do. The 4 people who were knocked down by Han Fei were now full of spiritual energy, covering their wounds while shouting, "Asshole, tell me your name and team. I'll beat you up." Bam. Zhang Xuanyu went up and kicked him. Who do you want to beat? The young man under Han Fei's feet had just come back to his senses when dozens of sword chi phantoms rushed at Han Fei. However, Han Fei ignored the sword chi at all, picked up the brick, and smashed it a dozen times. Han Fei grinned and said, "Laugh again? Show me another smile? I'll beat the shit out of you." On the side, some people who were watching the show cheered. Then beat them. Han Fei was speechless. Do you really want to see that? Luo Xiaobai said lightly, "Okay, that's enough. If you beat them too hard, the law enforcement team will come." Among the 4, the young man who was tied up by Luo Xiaobai covered his stomach and said, "Fuck, are you afraid of the law enforcement team? I'm a member of the law enforcement team. You're not allowed to leave." Zhang Xuanyu suddenly said, "Do you know who I am?" The man grimaced in pain. "I don't care who you are. You dare to beat up a member of my law enforcement group in public? I'll kill you." Bang! Zhang Xuanyu went up and struck the man with his rod, causing him to vomit blood. "It's good that you don't know me. Bye-bye." Then Zhang Xuanyu looked at the others and said, "What are you waiting for? Let's go. I heard that fighting will deduct points." Everyone, the onlookers, Han Fei took Xia Xiaochan and the others and quickly slipped out of the 1912 club. For some reason, he felt like laughing. How long had it been since he had such a strange experience? Haha. The few of them laughed maniacally. Zhang Xuanyu grinned and said, "Great, there are all kinds of people here. They can't find us anyway. It's fine. Who knows who?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Actually, it's possible. But as far as I know, there are a lot of fights in the carnival. It didn't seem to be a big problem. Even if they found out, they would just have to pay some money." Lu Renquang asked, "So, what are we going to do now?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Let's go home. Next, except for meeting every 5 days, we should work hard to cultivate and strive to make a breakthrough as soon as possible. Hanging fishers are the mainstream on the scattered stars island." Zhang Xuanyu curled his lips. "It's a pity that we finally have a day off." Xia Xiaochan added, "Just now, we should have given each of them a drop of Poison King." Everyone's first gathering ended with this comical brawl. Luo Xiaobai and the others went back. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan found a place where there was no one and talked for a while. As for what happened in the carnival, no one took it seriously. In fact, Han Fei and the others were arrogant. And in just a few days, Han Fei and the others all felt the atmosphere on the scattered stars island. Here, fighting was common. Just like the first day Han Fei arrived at the 8th Battalion, a group of people gathered together to fight. In the end, nothing happened at all. During the few days Han Fei was there were fights almost every day. If it weren't for Han Fei's shocking battle performance, someone would have come to trouble him. He had to admit that people who were in love, their IQ would also change, and so would their personalities. Xia Xiaochan was such a fierce girl, but since she fell in love with Han Fei, she didn't even have a fit anymore. In the end, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan stayed together for a long time before they returned to their camp. Before leaving, he pressed the hexagon starfish on Xia Xiaochan's shoulder. Xia Xiaochan probably needed it more than he did. When they returned to the skeleton shore, it was already dark. However, when Han Fei came to his treehouse, he found that 4 more treehouses had been set up next to his treehouse and on the ground. At this moment, Yu Lingyun and the others were sitting on the ground and eating barbecue. Gu Daliang scratched his head. Wait, why is it not as delicious as the captain's? Leng Hui nodded. The ingredients are not right. Wu Xiaoxiao sighed. Hey, the long-snout silver shark is so delicious. I really want to eat it again. Last time, I felt that my cultivation improved after eating it. Gu Daliang chuckled. Me too. We're living on the Scattered Stars Island on a knife's edge anyway. Do you really have to treat yourself so badly? Captain, you're really good at living. Yu Lingyun curled her lips. Then train more. Improve your strength and catch them on your own. As they were chatting, they saw Han Fei descend from the sky. Han Fei was stunned. What are you doing? Why are you all here? Wu Xiaoxiao immediately jumped to her feet. Captain, come on. Let's have barbecue. Han Fei shook his head. No thanks. I've already had it. As he spoke, Han Fei threw a pile of ultra-quality spiritual weapons to the ground. Yu Lingyun, your sword. Leng Hui, your dagger. Gu Daliang, your shield and big sword. Wu Xiaoxiao, your battle suit. Wu Xiaoxiao immediately screamed, I have an ultra-quality battle suit now. Gu Daliang hurried to pick up his shield and sword with a big smile. Leng Hui simply rubbed his palm with the dagger. Blood flowed out and he immediately refined it. Yu Lingyun's eyelid shivered. She asked in shock, It's done? Han Fei said with a cunning smile, You'll have to pay me back from tomorrow. It doesn't matter how much it is. I want to see the credit points in my account every day. Wu Xiaoxiao, who was jumping in excitement a moment ago, stiffened. She didn't say until a long time later, Cough, okay, no problem, Captain. Han Fei thought for a moment and said, Right, let's meet at the camp tomorrow morning. Yu Lingyun was confused. Isn't this the camp? We're all going to move here. Han Fei pointed at the camp far away and said, Let's meet there. We're from the 8th Battalion anyway. What's wrong if we don't see our comrades every day? Then, while everybody looked at him in confusion, Han Fei dashed into his treehouse. Han Fei had more important things to do than chatting with Wu Xiaoxiao and the others. He had to become a 3-star refiner as soon as possible. By then, he would be able to distribute leaflets and pick up customers with his sole possession skills. Downstairs, Wu Xiaoxiao and the others looked at each other in bewilderment. Gu Daliang, on the other hand, touched his big sword and grinned. Good sword and good shield. Yu Lingyun asked, Don't you feel that the captain is a bit weird? Wu Xiaoxiao nodded. I think so. He seems to like making money. Leng Hui added, He seems to be throwing away the ultra-quality spiritual weapons as if they were garbage. Everyone, inside the treehouse, Han Fei didn't intend to hide it. The fact that he was learning to refine would be exposed sooner or later. Why didn't he let other people know that he could refine sooner? After he was adept at refining, he would make the entire 8th Battalion owe him money. It was an uneventful night. The next morning, in the camp of the 8th Battalion, many of the senior investigators on break were having breakfast. Some were training, and some were sparring with each other. 5 squads of the same batch as Han Fei had set off, and the others were about to set off too. Yu Lingyun and the others, on the other hand, were standing straight and solemnly in a row. Many people were surprised to see them. If they were going to investigate, then so be it. What were they doing? Han Fei, however, stood before Yu Lingyun and the others. Okay, take out your weapons and prepare to go. Take out our weapons? Yu Lingyun and the others were all taken aback. What weapons should they take out now? Couldn't they be used at any time if they were kept in their bodies? Han Fei said solemnly, Today, we're going to develop a habit called weapon nurturing. Don't keep your spiritual weapons in your body anymore. Hold them in your hands at all times, like me. Han Fei had a blood-drinking knife on his waist and the water-dividing seal in his hand. Yu Lingyun frowned. Isn't weapon nurturing just enough in your body? Han Fei shook his head. All your spiritual weapons have sealed souls. Do you think it's enough to nurture them in your body? You have to cultivate your feelings. Cut the crap and take out your weapons. Yu Lingyun and the others immediately took out their weapons. As soon as the ultra-quality spiritual weapons were taken out, everyone was shocked. Someone exclaimed, "They are all ultra-quality spiritual weapons?" Someone said in disbelief, "Did the 37th squad make a fortune? Just now, I seem to see a shadow on Gu Daliang's sword. It seems to be an ultra-quality spiritual weapon with sealed souls." Someone was shocked. The 37th squad is so poor. How come all of them are equipped with ultra-quality spiritual weapons? Someone sighed. No, we'll have to ask them when they come back. On the fishing boat, Wu Xiaoxiao and the others were talking telepathically. Wu Xiaoxiao said, "I seriously suspect that the captain intentionally asked us to show our weapons." Just now, the other squads were all stunned. Yu Lingyun secretly heaved a sigh. For some reason, I always feel that something is wrong with the captain. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 625. 1 month passed. Han Fei was refining. Yu Lingyun and the others were already used to it. They didn't know where Han Fei got so many materials, but he had been refining crazily for a month. At this moment, Yu Lingyun and the others were secretly chatting with each other. Wu Xiaoxiao asked, "Isn't the captain too rich?" Refining requires not only materials but also a tremendous amount of spiritual energy. He has been refining for a whole month. Does he still have the money to do so? Gu Daliang nodded. I saw it. Since 7 or 8 days ago, all the weapons he refined are high-quality spiritual weapons. That's too fast. Yu Lingyun nodded. Maybe it's because other people aren't as rich as him. However, he's refined high-quality spiritual weapons from low-quality spiritual weapons to high-quality spiritual weapons in only 1 month. That's an appalling speed. Leng Hui nodded. Extremely fast. Han Fei had never kept the fact that he was learning refining a secret. Every time he was on vacation, people thought that he went to buy materials and learn refining. In fact, Han Fei bought a lot of shiny things and exchanged them for treasures with the hexagon starfish. At this moment, almost all the not-so-shiny things in the hexagon starfish's treasures that could be used for refining were bought by Han Fei. For that, Han Fei spent a lot of high-quality spiritual stones. After a tremendous amount of materials were piled up, 1 month later. At this moment, a handful of materials in Han Fei's hand were flashing and extremely unstable. It was the transition between high-quality spiritual weapons and ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Swish! A blade light pierced through the treehouse and flew into the sky, allowing Yu Lingyun and the others to appear under Han Fei's treehouse. Leng Hui's pupils constricted. How can an ultra-quality spiritual weapon be so fast? Yu Lingyun and the others were all lost for words. Is that it? In the distance, many people perceived the blade light and came to see. As early as a month ago, when Yu Lingyun and the others took out the ultra-quality spiritual weapons, everyone knew that the captain of the 37th squad had reliable connections and could refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons. At that time, many people came to ask Han Fei to refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons with materials and so on. However, Han Fei refused all of them. At that time, Han Fei said that his seniors didn't have enough time to refine for so many people. However, Han Fei also said that he had made some achievements in refining. As long as he gave it some thought, he might be able to forge a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. Once he was able to forge a supreme-grade spiritual weapon, he would definitely sell it to his colleagues in the 8th Battalion at a discount. However, that was not the case. At this moment, the ultra-quality spiritual weapon was refined, and many people ran over as soon as possible. Someone asked, Yu Lingyun, has your captain been appointed? Yu Lingyun, that was an ultra-quality spiritual weapon just now. Am I mistaken? Xiao Xiao, we're good friends. Can you tell your captain about this? Daliang, are we brothers close? Can you help me ask your captain to forge a supreme-grade spirit weapon? Brother Lung, oh forget it. Yu Lingyun, I'm not bragging. I've always admired your personality. Can you ask your captain to refine a saber for me? Who? Han Fei let out a long breath, with a touch of surprise in his eyes. This surprise was not the surprise of refining a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. In his opinion, this was a matter of course. In just 1 month he had consumed more than 80 million points of spiritual energy, all the spiritual spring he had, and all the low-quality spiritual stones were consumed by him. In Forge the Universe, not a single hair of the materials below ultra-quality was left. If he still couldn't refine an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, how bad would his aptitude be? What surprised Han Fei was that through refining, he found that his control of spiritual energy was getting better and better. If his control of spiritual energy was 100 points before, now it was probably 150 points. What did it mean to have a stronger control of spiritual energy? About 100 points of spiritual energy, he could exert the combat power of 150 points of spiritual energy. Although he was still dozens of points away from becoming a peak-level dangling fisher. In terms of strength, he was much stronger than before. No wonder those refiners' star ranks are so high. It turns out that refining has such benefits. Of course, the benefits were great, but during this period, Han Fei consumed a lot of spiritual energy. He probably consumed more than 80 million points of spiritual energy. From a month ago to now, including this ultra-quality spiritual weapon, he had refined a total of 1,509. Who knew how many people would be shocked if this number was made known to them? After all, a trainee refiner could only refine a dozen or so weapons a day. Han Fei, on the other hand, refined more than 50 weapons a day on average with his family background and strong spiritual power. The number was so great that it made one's jaw drop. Besides, Han Fei recently found that the spiritual barriers seemed to be loosening. Suddenly, he heard a lot of people talking under the treehouse. Han Fei sensed and couldn't help but be surprised. Where did so many people come from? But then his face was full of smiles. Here it comes, it's time for me to make a fortune. Han Fei immediately jumped down from the treehouse. Sorry to disturb you. Just now, I accidentally made a breakthrough in the art of refining, and ultra-quality spiritual weapons are no longer a problem for me. I know you are eager. How can I not hope that everyone in the 8th Battalion has a divine weapon in their hands? Well, I promised you that I would refine weapons for you, and it still counts. Immediately, someone said, Captain Han, I have materials. I want to refine a long spear. Someone hurriedly pushed the man away. Captain Han, I can pay more spiritual energy. I just want a giant shield. Go away, I came here first. When I got here, there was no one. Many captains from other squads also came over to surround them. There was a refiner in the 8th Battalion who could refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons. This showed that he was already at the level of a 2-star refiner. However, a captain was puzzled. Han Fei, what's the success rate of refining ultra-quality spiritual weapons now? Han Fei said lightly, Today I suddenly realized that the success rate of refining ultra-quality spiritual weapons is almost 50%. But a captain's eyes lit up. 50%? Isn't that the level of a 3-star refiner? Yes. Captain Han, are you sure you can refine it? Han Fei said leisurely, although I think the success rate is probably 50%, that's under the condition that I can devote myself to it. Besides, refining ultra-quality spiritual weapons consumes a lot of energy. I can refine up to 5 a day at most. I have to spend the rest of the time on cultivation. Someone's eyes flickered. Captain Han, what's the price for you to refine an ultra-quality spiritual weapon? A 3-star refiner of the refining hall must provide 100 kilograms of spiritual energy and 3 sets of materials to refine a spiritual weapon. What about you, Captain Han? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. So greedy? That's too fucking profitable. I'm so excited. No, I can't show it. I have to calm down. Cough, cough. Han Fei frowned and scolded him solemnly, "You're being too polite. We're colleagues. How can I charge you so much? How about this? I only need 2 sets of materials and 50 kilograms of spiritual energy." Hiss. Really? Captain Han, are you serious? Captain Han, you're so generous. We admire you. Wu Xiaoxiao screamed, "Captain, are you crazy? If you fail, you'll have to put in the materials yourself." Gu Daliang also said, "Captain, why don't we?" Yu Lingyun interjected, "Captain, isn't this too cheap?" Han Fei secretly chuckled. Wu Xiaoxiao and the others were the most eye-catching. Holy shit, this was simply a matter of making a profit with each round of refining. Cheat my ass. Han Fei glared at them and criticized them solemnly. "How can I make money from my colleagues? It's a deal. The squads of the 8th Battalion will help each other. I'll set the price. Right, I have some extra materials with me. Some of my colleagues who don't have the materials and spiritual energy but want an ultra-quality spiritual weapon can also give me points. You don't have to pay me all at once. Just pay me back as much as you have." That's a good deal? You can buy it on credit. Immediately, someone said solemnly, "Captain Han, please forgive me for my criticism of you before. Today, I, Wang Liang, would like to apologize to Captain Han." Someone cupped his hands. "Captain Han is our role model. If you need anything in the future, feel free to come to us. We won't refuse you." Someone was overjoyed. "Captain Han, we can't let you suffer too much. If your success rate of refining ultra-quality spiritual weapons is about 50%, we might as well add some more spiritual energy." Immediately, someone squinted at him. "Is there something wrong with your head? He's already asking for such a low price, and you still want to add more spiritual energy? Are you crazy? Is money not money?" Suddenly, someone asked, "Captain Han, when can you seal souls? Why don't you learn the spirit sealing art too?" Han Fei was about to say that, but he was smiling. "I've already learned the spirit sealing art, but it's rather difficult. Although I have some foundation, it will take me at least a month to learn it. I'll seal souls for you at a 30% discount. I'm sure you'll be satisfied." Han Fei thought that these poor guys couldn't afford to seal souls, so he asked them to buy weapons with their points first. When they accumulated enough points in the future, he could trick them into sealing souls and make a fortune. Hiss. "Captain Han, 30% discount? Shoot, learn the spirit sealing art in a month? Am I too stupid? Isn't it said that refining is as difficult as climbing to the sky?" "Captain Han, you're awesome." Han Fei quickly interrupted them. "Everyone, you're too polite. I, Han, am a man of my word. Every word I spit is a nail. I'll never change my words. Okay, that's settled. Now, who wants to refine?" "Me." "I came first." "Get lost." Yu Lingyun and the others looked at each other in bewilderment. For some reason, they felt that something was wrong. In the distance, on a certain tree, Zhong Han, the captain of the 8th Battalion, was looking at them and murmuring, "Interesting. So chapter? Asking for votes. If I want to add more chapters, I'll do it normally at around 7 or 10 o'clock. Anyway, I should only add 2 chapters today. It seems like I can take a break after tomorrow. Alright, these 3 chapters are all 3,000 words. I don't know why, but the more I write, the more words I write. End of this chapter." Chapter 626. In one morning, Han Fei accepted 58 orders. Han Fei couldn't help but regret saying that he could only refine 7 ultra-quality spiritual weapons a day. Of course, Han Fei only felt slightly regretful. After all, it felt great to have points in his account every day. For example, in just 1 month, Yu Lingyun and the other 3 had already contributed 40,096 points to him. In fact, it was a good deal. With ultra-quality spiritual weapons, Yu Lingyun and the others were much stronger and could earn more points. A regular ultra-quality spiritual weapon only cost 10,000 points. A regular ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed soul only cost 30,000 to 50,000 points. Based on Yu Lingyun's speed, after deducting the daily expenses, it would only take them 3 months to pay off the debt. Perhaps, ultra-quality materials were hard to get in the level 3 fishery. However, in the unknown place, it was no exaggeration to say that the difficulty was directly reduced by 50%. The reason why people were reluctant to use ultra-quality spiritual weapons was that they were too expensive and costly to refine. If they were bought directly, they would cost at least 10,000 points, which was equivalent to more than 1,000,000 mid-quality pearls. Refining them required 3 sets of materials and a spiritual spring, which was not cheap at all, and they had to wait in line. Han Fei gave such a huge discount on the service fee, which could be deducted with points and put on credit. Who wouldn't be tempted? Just as Han Fei accepted the orders and was calculating how much he could make from them every day, he suddenly heard a roar. "Everybody gather." Immediately, everybody's face changed and they all ran to the camp. Han Fei and the others were no exception. Although they accepted orders, they couldn't slack off at all when the mission came. In the past month, Han Fei only encountered a relatively large-scale attack by the big sword water fleas. However, just like the tide-calling crabs, they were easily repelled. Apart from that, the daily patrols were basically uneventful. Han Fei couldn't help but be surprised. Maybe the unknown place wasn't so terrible. In the camp, all the 66 squads were gathered here. Everyone formed groups of 5 and lined up together. Standing in the open space at the front, Zhong Han looked at everyone gloomily. "The Red Spirit is here. Now, the squads I call, take out your fishing boats and follow me." When they heard the words, Red Spirit, everyone was shocked. Many of them revealed expressions of deep wariness. Confused, Han Fei asked Yu Lingyun telepathically, "What's the red ghost?" Gloomily, Yu Lingyun released coldness all over her body. "A tide of red ghosts. It's too complicated to explain. I'll tell you on the boat." Zhong Han roared, "Squads 1 to 10, 13, 17, 22, 37, 59, follow me immediately." Gu Daliang immediately took out a fishing boat, and everybody jumped on it. Within 2 seconds, all the fishing boats took off. In the sky, seeing that everybody was grim and fearless, Han Fei couldn't help but ask again, "What's a tide of red ghosts?" Yu Lingyun frowned and suddenly looked up at Han Fei. Han Fei sensed a strong killing intent. Yu Lingyun's eyes were cold. The red ghost tide is the outbreak of a lot of ghost algae, which sweep the coast with a lot of venoms. Inside the red ghost seaweed, all the creatures were poisonous, and all the creatures were poison-resistant. Once a tide of red ghosts occurs, it means that some sea demons have gone crazy again and are trying to attack the scattered stars island. Wu Xiaoxiao's face was also cold as she mumbled, "The last captain died in the tide of red ghosts. More than 20% of the participants were killed or wounded. I don't know if I can pay back the points I owe to the captain." Han Fei didn't mind the credit at all. His eyes slightly constricted. 20% of the casualties? Han Fei took a deep breath. This was not a fishing trial. Most of the people here were hanging fishers. What did it mean for a casualty rate of 20%? It meant that for every 10 hanging fishers who went out, 2 would die. Han Fei asked solemnly, "How often does this tide of red ghosts break out?" Yu Lingyun explained, "Logically, it can only break out twice a year at most. Under normal circumstances, it only happens once a year. However, there was only a gap of 4 months between the last time and this time." Leng Hui nodded. "It means that the sea demons are up to something." Han Fei frowned. Was it because he had been living too comfortably recently? He had forgotten to collect anti-poison fruits. If this red specter tide was filled with poisonous creatures, would he be able to hold them off? Han Fei wasn't sure. The venomous tulip was only an ultra-quality anti-poison fruit in the level 3 fishery. But Han Fei hadn't eaten any of the poisonous fruits in the unknown place yet. Could he resist them? He really didn't know. Han Fei made up his mind not to go into the sea. He had to find anti-poison fruits after this battle. The fishing boat traveled all the way at an extremely fast speed. In the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, they have already crossed several regions. Along the way, Han Fei saw fishing boats from other places taking off from time to time. They seemed to be rushing to help. The place where Han Fei and the others needed help. It was called the Path of Giants. Why was it called the Path of Giants? When Han Fei was in the sky, before he landed, he had already understood. About 50 kilometers from here, there was a row of horizontal pillars that were thicker and taller than the trees in the forest. These pillars stood in the sea and stretched for more than 100 kilometers, like a defensive city wall. Under each of the stone pillars, there was a mountain of large stones. The purpose of these stones was to prevent the sea demons from pulling down these stone pillars. At this moment, on each stone pillar stood 2 soul warriors and a spirit gatherer. These soul warriors, without exception, were all using bows. At this moment, they were crazily shooting spiritual energy arrows into the red tide with their battle bow skills. The spirit gatherer, on the other hand, had to ensure that the 2 soul warriors had enough spiritual energy in their bodies. But no matter how strong these soul warriors were, there was always a large red tide that jumped over the stone pillars. In the red tide, Han Fei saw a lot of bugs, red and green crabs, spiders, starfish in the sky. On the overwhelming fishing boats, countless people were fishing. They hooked up those venomous creatures and killed them in midair. This was just a defense. And there were a total of 9 such defenses. In other words, the so-called Path of Giants had 9 layers. Han Fei couldn't help but be stunned. 9 layers of defense are still not enough? Yu Lingyun said, in the tide of red ghosts, there are always creatures that can pass through the layers of defense. So, the next step is a head-on battle. That's why we're here. We're going to fight the venomous creatures head-on. Han Fei took a deep breath. Are they crazy? Fight the venomous creatures head-on? No wonder so many people died. So, they were all poisoned to death. At this moment, the fishing boats landed. Zhong Han roared, "Cooperate, cooperate, cooperate." Teamwork is the key to fighting the venomous creatures. Manipulators, remember to control the rhythm, and spirit gatherers must supply me with spiritual energy. Armorists are the main force. Soul warriors and hunters, don't charge in like idiots. About 150 people had come, and half of the 8th Battalion had come. Judging from the fishing boats in the sky, the number of soldiers on the Path of Giants was increasing, because the task assigned to them was not to rush to the front but to the main battlefield behind the 9 layers of obstacles. Therefore, Han Fei had no idea what the situation of the first battlefield at the periphery was like. However, the main battlefield had already begun. Han Fei easily perceived the many squads that were fighting on the coast 20 kilometers away. Yu Lingyun asked, "Captain, do you have antidotes?" Han Fei shook his head. "Where would I get the antidote? I've been too busy with refining these days." Yu Lingyun, however, immediately threw a small red bottle to Han Fei. "This is a regular antidote. Take it immediately if you're poisoned." At this moment, Zhong Han had led Han Fei and the others to the mudflats on the coast. Zhong Han instructed, "Just defend this side later. I'll go to the front to reinforce them." Han Fei's area was full of scorpions, and they all came here by digging the ground. Many big black scorpions with red spots didn't even come out of the ground but simply attacked the mudflats. Someone accidentally stepped on a hole in the mud, and half of his body fell into the hole. Then they were hit by poisonous hooks. Han Fei clicked his tongue. It wasn't because those people had no perception, but because there were too many scorpions. They were even more numerous than the big sword water fleas on the skeleton shore. However, compared to the venomous scorpions, other places were even more shocking. Han Fei perceived that 15 kilometers away, a bunch of manipulators were facing insects that were as thick as arms. Han Fei immediately came back to himself and roared, "Wu Xiao Xiao, I'll leave the underground part to you. Yu Lingyun and Leng Hui will assist Wu Xiao Xiao. I only have one requirement. No scorpions must emerge from the ground." Wu Xiao Xiao immediately realized her importance. Her 3-leaf cold wind grass was characterized by freezing. It was the most reasonable thing for her to freeze the mud and guard the underground. Wu Xiao Xiao said solemnly, "Unless I die, no giant feathered scorpion will emerge from the ground." Han Fei instructed, "Daliang will guard the ground." Gu Daliang said solemnly, "Okay." After a minute, Han Fei and the others rushed into the battlefield. Zhong Han, on the other hand, leaped up and rushed to the front line. Han Fei also saw the first scorpion. Its pincers were dark red, and there were short legs under its abdomen. The most eye-catching part was its tail. At the end of its tail, there were 2 rows of long needles, like feathers on an arrow. The one in the middle was red, which was obviously very poisonous. Named Giant Feathered Scorpion Introduction, this is a multi-legged sea scorpion with 2 pincers, 8 swift legs, and feather hooks on its tail. It's extremely fast and has 23 stingers, each of which is poisonous. The red stinger is the most poisonous. Anyone below peak level dangling fishers will die in 10 seconds if they don't have an antidote. Level 43, quality, regular, spiritual energy greater than 1,998 points. Effect, inettable, collectible, feather hooks. The error-free chapter of Fishing God will be updated on Green Bean. There are no advertisements on this website. Please collect and recommend Green Bean. If you like Fishing God, please collect. Fishing God Green Bean updates the fastest. Chapter 627. After he saw the scorpion, Han Fei suddenly roared, "Stop!" Yu Lingyun asked, "What's wrong?" Han Fei said, "Don't move. I'll set up a defense array for you." Han Fei pointed his hands, and a circle of complicated array patterns was taking shape below Wu Xiaoxiao and Gu Daoyang's feet. In less than 2 breaths of time, the 2 of them had formed a defensive array formation with 6 veined armor plates. Wu Xiaoxiao exclaimed, "Captain, you're good at arrays?" Yu Lingyun and the others were also dumbfounded. Talent mattered most to a spirit gatherer. It wasn't bad enough to be a spirit gatherer, and learning healing arts was already a headache. Arrays, on the other hand, were only for spirit gatherers. Most of the spirit gatherers who were good at arrays were in their 20s or even 30s. After all, it took time to learn arrays. Han Fei, for example, could only be described as a genius if he could set up a defense array with a point of his finger. Han Fei said, "Don't be surprised. It's just a beginner defense array. However, it shouldn't be a problem for it to deal with the scorpion's attacks." After another moment, Yu Lingyun and Leng Hui also set up the 6 spirit armor. Han Fei, on the other hand, simply stepped on the ground and set up the 6 spirit armor in no time. The other squads all grimaced at this scene. Someone looked at the spirit gatherer in his team and couldn't help but say, "Look at the captain of the 37th squad. He's even capable of defense arrays." The spirit gatherer blushed. "He's an advanced dangling fisher, and he's even a captain. Compared to such a genius, so what if I don't know arrays?" Which spirit gatherer in the other squads knows arrays? After an array was set up, Han Fei roared and charged at the army of scorpions. They were level 43 creatures. If it were before, Han Fei wouldn't have been able to defeat them no matter how hard he tried. Although they were only regular quality, they were still level 43 crustacean creatures. But at this moment, the 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers around Han Fei stabbed crazily and pierced a dozen scorpions the moment he charged into the battlefield. It was exactly when they charged into the scorpions that the venomous needles were sprayed out as if they were free. Fortunately, those needles were not the most poisonous. Also, Yu Lingyun and the others dodged well, and only 1 needle was stabbed into their 6 spirits armor every few seconds. Adhering to the principle of keeping a low profile, Han Fei didn't expose the 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers although he was on a killing spree. However, with every swing of his saber, a large scorpion would be killed. The battle lasted no more than 50 breaths. Half of the 150 members of the 8th Battalion began to take drugs. Their faces were already abnormally red. No matter how hard the manipulator tried to defend, there was no way he could block the sky full of poison needles. Being poisoned was almost inevitable. Fortunately, these people had more or less eaten anti-poison fruits, so they had some resistance to the scorpion's venom. But in terms of battle prowess, it was obvious that it had declined. Therefore, the charge of the 4 of them was extremely fierce. There was not a single living creature within 50 meters of the 5 guys who were emitting a faint golden glow. In just a short while, hundreds of scorpions had died under their attacks. Fortunately, a lot of friendly forces that he did not know rushed in. Otherwise, the 8th Battalion alone couldn't stop the giant feathered horseshoe crabs that emerged from the ground. After another moment, the 6 spirits' armor of Yu Lingyun and the others was all broken. The spiritual energy of these people was also rapidly decreasing. Yu Lingyun said, "Take your medicine." Gu Daliang said, "Stay behind me. I'll block them." Wu Xiaoxiao's face was a little pale. Her workload was definitely not small. She had to sense the underground and pay attention to the surface all the time, which consumed her spiritual energy very quickly. Wu Xiaoxiao shouted, "Captain, spiritual energy." Han Fei didn't charge again. When he saw more and more large scorpions emerging from the ground, he knew that he was in trouble. Unless he summoned all the blue sea wandering dragon daggers and rushed into the scorpions alone. But even so, in the sea that spanned dozens of kilometers, even if he could charge back and forth, he couldn't change much without the support of peak-level hanging fissures. Suddenly, Han Fei looked at the source of the sound, only to see that someone had been hit by the red feather hook. In less than 2 breaths of time, his entire body seemed to have turned into a cooked shrimp. Thick dark red blood burst out from his body. Not good. Armors, hold on. A manipulator was pierced by a giant scorpion, and all his vines withered. After the manipulator died, the armorists were the only ones who could defend the team. How could they resist it? After only a moment, the 4 of them, including the armorist, were full of black thorns. Although they weren't dead yet, they had all lost their combat ability. On the other hand, losing the ability to fight on the battlefield was no different from dying in battle. Han Fei took a deep breath and gave Wu Xiaoxiao and the others another 6 spirits armor. Then he shouted, "Everybody, retreat. I'll release the poison in the front." On the 8th Battalion's side, 2 squads had been wiped out. There were also quite a few people who had perished here and there. Han Fei was certain that it wouldn't be a good thing if the battle went on like this. After all, only a limited number of people could come to help. The creatures in the ocean, on the other hand, had much higher reproductive abilities than human beings. For example, a scorpion could lay 40 to 50 eggs in a nest. That was no big deal. From the moment a person was born, to the moment they grew up, to the moment they succeeded in their cultivation, they had to go through layers and layers of elimination. It could be said that every one of them was an elite. It was obviously not worth it to fight against these scorpions. Hearing Han Fei's roar, many captains of the 8th Battalion were taken aback. Their first choice was to believe him. After all, as members of the same battalion, they knew Han Fei more or less. They all knew that he was a genius. Since he said he was going to release the poison, he must have a reason to do so. However, the other allies didn't know that. They only thought that Han Fei was courting death by rushing into the scorpions alone. However, a shocking scene unfolded before their eyes. 10 blue sea wandering dragon daggers spun rapidly and rushed into the scorpions like meat grinders. Han Fei was wearing an ultra-quality battle suit. Outside the ultra-quality battle suit, he was wearing a spiritual energy protective cover. Outside the body, he was wearing the 6 spirits armor. In this way, when Han Fei rushed into the scorpions, he immediately crushed a spiritual fruit. Immediately, spiritual energy erupted where he was, and a massive number of scorpions surrounded him. Han Fei sneered and saw that within a radius of 50 meters around him, it began to rain. Immediately afterward, Han Fei's figure jumped and moved on the scorpion shells like a ghost. As he moved, he swept up those big scorpions. After about 10 minutes, the big scorpions began to riot and spit bubbles frantically from their mouths. At first, it was 1 or 2, then it was in groups of 3 or 5, and then it was in large numbers. All the scorpions drenched by the heavy rain began to spit bubbles. They didn't chase after people but collided and fought each other. Seeing this, the captains of the 8th Battalion all roared, "Kill! Kill this wave and we will have a lot of breathing space." What Han Fei didn't know was that in the front line, somewhere 50 kilometers away from him, there was a fatty who was armed to the teeth with a set of supreme-grade spiritual weapons. A big fish that could spit bubbles was spitting out bubbles crazily. And in the little fatty's hand, there was a thing like a squirt gun, spraying water out. The little fatty's opponent was a large swarm of red worms, which looked extremely creepy. However, all the worms that little fatty sprayed were rolling on the ground, vomiting and having diarrhea. If Han Fei were here, he would definitely recognize him. Isn't this fucking Chao Chiu? Why is he on the battlefield too? Neither of them knew that the other was on this battlefield, but they thought of fighting poison with poison at the same time. Therefore, in the vision of a hidden fisher, both of them were detected by him. Are they two poison masters? A junior hanging fisher and an advanced dangling fisher. Interesting. Han Fei had a great time spraying. This was a pure water control technique. The Poison King was wrapped in water and scattered from the sky, and wherever it passed, all the scorpions became soft-footed. Just when Han Fei was having a great time spraying, he saw a fishing boat had already swept over him. The hidden fisher shouted to Han Fei, "Temporary call. Get on my fishing boat. I have a teammate." Chao Chiu? Han Fei was speechless. Why was Chao Chiu here? Chao Chiu was dumbfounded. He didn't do anything. While he was spraying water, he was inexplicably summoned by someone and taken to the fishing boat. The hidden fisher pierced through more than 800 meters with a sword light and wiped out hundreds of scorpions for the 8th Battalion. Then he shouted, "Get on." Seeing that the enemy was so aggressive, Han Fei immediately jumped onto the fishing boat and then said to Yu Lingyun and the others, "Stay calm. If you can't beat them, retreat and form teams." As soon as Han Fei shouted, he turned around, only to see Chao Chiu looking at Han Fei with sparkling eyes. What a coincidence! What a coincidence! You're here too. Latest chapter of the Fishing God. Full text of the Fishing God. /127859/download address of the Fishing God. /mobile reading address of the Fishing God. /127859/ for the convenience of reading next time, you can click Collection below to record this time. Chapter 627, What a Coincidence. You're here too. You'll see it next time you open the bookshelf. If you like Fishing God, please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 628. This hidden fisher's star rank was shockingly high. It was even higher than senior brother Dashwai's, reaching the level of 7 stars. Han Fei couldn't help but calm down. During this period, he had already understood. The difference of 1-star rank was like the difference between heaven and earth. Those who had 7 stars were definitely big shots on the Scattered Stars Island. So, Han Fei chose to compromise and looked at Chao Chiu. When Han Fei saw Chao Chiu, he didn't believe it at all. With this guy's cowardly personality, why would he appear on the battlefield? The hidden fisher said, "Huh? No wonder you both like to use poison. It turns out that you know each other." Han Fei seemed to understand something. It turned out that Chao Chiu was also sprinkling poison somewhere on this battlefield. Then he was noticed by the hidden fisher. Han Fei was embarrassed. How the hell do I know how to use poison? It's all the work of this guy. Before Chao Chiu and Han Fei said anything, the hidden fisher said, "Go to the front and put as much poison as you can into the sea." Chao Chiu was about to speak, but he heard Han Fei say, "Senior, I refined this poison with thousands of poisonous grasses. I'd rather jump into the sea than let them all go. I'll suffer a great loss." Chao Chiu was speechless. "But I'm the one who made this poison." Chao Chiu quickly responded, "Yes, yes, yes. Senior, in order to refine this poison, I once tested it with my own body and almost died. Senior, in order to refine this poison, I once tested it with my own body and almost died from it. Senior, in order to refine this poison, I once tested it with my own body and almost died." Using his own body to test the poison? Even pigs laughed. The hidden fisher glanced at Han Fei and Chao Chiu indifferently. "I'll count your points." Han Fei immediately patted his chest. "For the safety of my comrades, I'm duty-bound to do it." Seeing that Han Fei was so shameless, Chao Chiu immediately said, "Fine. If they could win this battle, what was a mere poison? I'll just try to make poison again at the risk of being poisoned." The hidden fisher's hands trembled and he almost slapped the two of them into the sea. Why weren't you so generous when I didn't give you points? However, the war was urgent. Just now, he observed that Han Fei and the fatty released the poison, and it worked. No matter how many people were poisoned to death, the poison in their bodies could probably kill 200 battle soul masters. The distance of 50 kilometers was only enough for Han Fei to say a few words. At this moment, Han Fei and Chao Qiu finally saw the front-line battlefield. On the first row of stone pillars, there were all 4-star soul warriors. Each and every one of them was holding a bow in their hands, and each of their attacks seemed to be able to blast dozens of meters into the sea. The sea was a sea of red that stretched for dozens of miles. Han Fei even saw a red inferior manfish far away, riding on the back of a fancy fish that was full of thorns. Amidst the red ghost tide, there were indistinct figures of little manfish. A large number of marine creatures were being driven away. At the very top of the red tide was a layer of red lotus bugs that were half a meter long. How many creatures were there in the water? He couldn't see it anyway. Occasionally, the inferior manfish wrapped in seawater would shoot spears at the soul warriors on the stone pillars in the tide. The hidden fisher roared, "Release the poison!" Han Fei and Chao Qiu sprayed a small amount of the Poison King into the water at the same time. The hidden fisher took a look and said, "How can it be so little?" "All of it." Chao Qiu said, "This much is enough. Let's go somewhere else." The hidden fisher was slightly taken aback and thought to himself, how can such a small amount of poison be enough for such a large sea? However, after only a few seconds, the sea was surging. Large swathes of bugs were spitting out red juice, which was greasy and disgusting as it floated on the surface of the sea. Under the water, colorful fish and crabs floated to the surface of the sea from time to time. These creatures were attacking indiscriminately, causing the surface of the sea to look like rolling lava. It was as if there was a riot. Seeing this scene, the hidden fisher immediately looked at Chao Qiu and Han Fei. "What poison is this?" Chao Qiu said proudly, "This poison doesn't have a name. It's called the Poison King. This means that even the King Cheng ancestor would not be able to withstand the poison." Smack. The hidden fisher said gloomily, "Be nice." Chao Qiu was so proud of himself that he almost raised his head to the sky. He quickly shrank his head. This poison can be spread through the flesh and blood of the poison creatures, so it has a wide range. Smack? Then throw all of them into the sea. The hidden fisher slapped Chao Qiu and then looked at Han Fei. "You do it. You can control water. Condense the poison into rainwater and throw it into the sea." How could Han Fei not agree? However, of course, he wouldn't contribute all of the Poison King. He didn't believe that this person could really give him a lot of points. But he could give him half. Anyway, since Chao Qiu had appeared, he could have as many Poison Kings as he wanted. So, on the cruel battlefield of the Path of Giants. Above the low sky, heavy rain condensed and followed the fishing boat all the way. So, on the frontline battlefield of the Path of Giants, wherever the heavy rain passed, the sea was boiling. The army of worms, which had been charging forward aggressively and fearlessly without fear of death, stopped at this moment. It was not that they didn't want to move forward, but the situation was different. Their internal organs were almost gone. What was the point of charging forward? On the countless stone pillars, many soul warriors who were shooting crazily were dumbfounded. What's going on? What's wrong with the rain? After being watered by the rain, the power and speed of the red tide were greatly reduced. Many of them didn't even rush to the stone pillars at all. They either directly vomited or killed each other. Someone said in surprise, "Is this poison? Oh my, is there any poison that can restrain the poisonous creatures in the tide of red ghosts? Damn, is this poison fighting poison with poison? Who are the two teenagers who spread the poison? These two people have made great contributions this time. Look at that inferior man-fish. He's vomiting and having diarrhea. He can't even hold the harpoon firmly in his hand. Brothers, work harder. Victory is at hand." The soul warriors in the front row worked harder and harder. However, even if they threw a lot of Poison Kings into the sea, they only managed to cover less than 1/3 of the area. All the poison kings in Han Fei's plan were thrown away. Chao Qiu didn't seem to have many. He only lasted less than 10 minutes longer than Han Fei before he threw them all away. Looking at the boiling sea, the hidden fisher couldn't help but sigh. Should I suggest to the higher-ups to study poisons? If they could concoct a large number of poisons as terrifying as the Poison Kings, he felt that the problem of the tide of red ghosts would no longer be a problem. The number of people killed in the battle could even be reduced to 1%. It's a pity that you don't have enough poison in your hands. Just as the hidden fisher sighed with emotion, he suddenly had an idea. He rose into the air, threw out a long spear, and moved as fast as lightning, colliding with a dark harpoon in the sky. Bam! The hidden fisher took a few steps back and looked at a red inferior manfish in the distance. Behind the inferior manfish, Han Fei also saw a half-mermaid and exclaimed in surprise. The hidden fisher laughed. "Go back, you cowards." Behind, many inferior manfish surfaced from the sea, standing in the distance and watching this scene. Han Fei felt a lot of sharp eyes. Those inferior manfish seemed to be going to eat him and Chao Qiu. Especially that half-mermaid, it seemed to be staring at Han Fei and Chao Qiu. Chao Qiu couldn't help but shrink his head. "I know inferior manfish are intelligent. Do they hate us?" Han Fei heaved a long sigh. "Yes, they definitely hate us. In the future, we have to be very careful in the sea." Haha. The hidden fisher stood on the side of the boat. These sea demons have all become demons, and their intelligence is no worse than that of humans. They did target the two of you, but it's not a big problem. However, it's not a big problem. The sea is so vast, where can they find you? Han Fei asked, "What if they have some kind of wanted order?" The hidden fisher sneered. "So be it. We are elites of the human race. Why should we be afraid of these ugly little fish demons? Okay, the outcome of this battle has been decided. You two have made great contributions. Come with me later." Because the red tide at the front had lost the ability to advance, there were no more reinforcements in the rear. In this way, the battle in the rear had been quickly pacified. Except for some people who were asked to stay to clean up the battlefield, many people had begun to retreat. At this moment, in the sky, 2 fishing boats rushed over. Han Fei said in surprise, "Captain?" Zhong Han glanced at Han Fei. Then, Zhong Han cupped his hands to the hidden fisher next to Han Fei and said, "Lord Yang, this boy belongs to the Skeleton Shore. He is the captain of the 37th Squad of the 8th Battalion under the 3rd column. May I know?" On the other side, a hanging fisher also flew over, and it was a female hanging fisher. She glanced at Chao Qiu, then cupped her hands and said, "Lord Yang, Chao Qiu is the second young master of the Chao family in the Thousand-Star City. He is not allowed to enter the battlefield. Please let him leave with me." The Lord Yang next to Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. "A member of the Chao family from the Thousand-Star City? However, these 2 people have made great contributions. Now they have to come with me." "Lord." Get lost. A powerful and ferocious pressure was released indiscriminately. The air was shaking, and the spiritual energy was directly disordered. The hidden fisher was angry, and his murderous aura made Han Fei and Chao Qiu dizzy. This was the first time that this pressure fell directly on them. Chao Qiu seemed to be fine. However, Han Fei's body trembled as if a mountain was pressing down on him, making him frown. Zhong Han and the female hanging fisher looked at each other, then gritted their teeth. "Yes. What's going on?" Han Fei and Little Ball seemed to be communicating with each other. However, neither of them sent a voice transmission, because in front of a hidden fisher, the effect of voice transmission was almost zero. They didn't know how many times they had experienced this. Chapter 629. Han Fei and Chao Qiu were taken to a place named the Scattered Stars Archive Room. The archive room was set up in an inconspicuous shop that sold all kinds of arts and classics next to the refining hall. From the outside, it looked like a shop, but there was more to it than meets the eye. 200 meters down from the secret room, Han Fei and Chao Qiu saw the words, "Scattered Stars Archive Room." This place was more like an abandoned, rundown house, almost as old as the library of the Thug Academy. It was dark, except for 2 small lamps on the 2 sides of the door. Half of the wick was exposed, and the feeble flames were burning, as if they could die out at any moment. The shabby house seemed rather large. The broken door looked so old that it might break at any moment. Chao Chio secretly tugged at Han Fei and asked, "Will we be killed to keep our mouths shut?" The hidden fisher surnamed Yang in front of them suddenly turned around and smiled creepily. "Do you think the 2 of you deserve to be killed? If I want to silence you, I can just find a random place and kill you." Han Fei didn't want to answer Chao Chio's stupid question. He was just curious about what this place was. It was quite mysterious. Han Fei asked, "Senior, what is this place?" "Don't ask. You'll find out later." Dum. The hidden fisher knocked on the door and called softly, "Elder Chin?" After around 10 breaths' time, an old and hoarse voice came from the door. "Yang Dao, tell me their names." Yang Dao said, "Elder Chin. One of them is Chao Chio, and the other is Han Fei. Both of them came to the Scattered Stars Island a few months ago." Han Fei and Chao Chio were confused. What kind of person could a 7-star expert be so respectful to? Also, why did they tell him their names? About 10 breaths later, the shabby wooden door opened a tiny gap. Han Fei and Chao Chio looked into the door curiously, only to see 2 jade slips flying out with a swish. Yang Dao caught the 2 jade slips and read them quickly. He was slightly surprised. He turned around and looked at Han Fei. "Did you kill a peak-level hanging fisher who guarded the dragon boat?" Han Fei narrowed his eyes. "What? There was such information in the jade slip?" In fact, after returning from the level 3 fishery, Old Bai had said that it was okay to kill him. However, he had offended many people in the 1,000-star city. The Scattered Stars Island was not the Blue Sea town. Even if senior brother Dashuai was here, Han Fei still didn't feel safe. Han Fei made up his mind. This time, he had to find a way to find Old Bai and the others. If there was anyone he could trust, it would be Old Bai and Jiang Qin. Jiang Qin was said to be a peak-level hanging fisher. However, Old Bai's strength was unfathomable, and he would definitely be safer with his backing. However, Kai Yang only let out a small cry of surprise before he went silent. He quickly turned his eyes to Chao Chio and looked him up and down several times. A moment later, Kai Yang threw the jade slip back into the door and looked at Chao Chio. Then he said softly, "Elder Chen, I can't see through him. Do you have any suggestions?" At the door, the old voice echoed again, "Let them choose." Yang Dao was stunned. Let them choose for themselves? Bam. The wooden door was closed. The moment it was closed, a vague voice came from inside, "Yes." Yang Dao cupped his hands at the wooden door and said to Han Fei and Chao Chio solemnly, "Come with me." Another moment passed. Han Fei and Chao Chio followed Yang Kai to the periphery of the transverse mountain. There was a large courtyard here, and there were arrays on all sides of the courtyard. Also, Han Fei could easily tell that there was a killing array in it. However, it didn't seem to be a complete killing array, but a maze. Yang Dao said coldly, "Follow me and don't move." Han Fei and Chao Chio looked at each other and followed Yang Dao in silence. After they entered the yard, they found that the density of spiritual energy here was 5 times higher than outside. Looking around, there were all kinds of spirit herbs being dried everywhere. There were also spirit herbs and spirit fruits being planted on the ground and in the pond. Different from the fruits and vegetables in the plantation, these were real spiritual plants. Han Fei glanced at them and found that many spiritual fruits contained more than 200,000 points of spiritual energy. Yang Dao looked at Han Fei. "Tell me about it." Han Fei was stunned. "About what?" Yang Dao asked, "What did you sense the first time you saw this place?" Han Fei saw that Yang Dao was smiling, as if he were enjoying a good show. Han Fei couldn't help but scan the place with his senses again, only to discover that his senses could only reach the inside of the yard and couldn't penetrate the ground. Yang Dao chuckled. "Everybody has senses. Then, there must be a lot of ways to block them." Han Fei scanned the surroundings again and said after a long time, "If I'm not mistaken, this place is centered around the spiritual plants. The pond in the yard is connected to the land and constitutes a superimposed spirit-gathering array. Outside of the yard, there must be a maze and a killing array. Since you brought us here, there must be someone here. But there's nothing in the yard, which means they're all underground. All of a sudden, Han Fei raised his head and saw a few black spots passing from one side. They must have been birds in the transverse mountain. However, those birds were passing from the side, which made Han Fei's heart skip a beat. Pondering for a moment, Han Fei said, "This place is very dangerous." Yang Dao smiled casually. "Why do you say so?" Han Fei said, "It's said that the transverse mountain is dangerous, but I haven't seen a single creature near this yard yet. I'm afraid that it's not just because of the killing arrays, but also because they're wary of certain people underground." Yang Dao looked at Chao Chiu. "What about you? What did you see?" Chao Chiu scratched his head. "Is someone doing research here?" Yang Dao's face slightly changed. "How did you find it?" Chao Chiu said proudly, "What's so difficult about that? I found some poisonous grasses here. The grasses themselves are nothing, but the stones on the ground are different. The stones here have medicinal properties. If they didn't have any medicinal properties, the spiritual plants here wouldn't be able to absorb enough spiritual energy no matter how abundant it is. To be able to turn the ground, the walls, and the scenery here into something medicinal, this was not something an ordinary person could do. Only the most unusual people could have come up with such a method. So, someone is doing research here." Yang Dao took a deep breath and thought to himself, "This little fatty figured out that someone is doing research here just from the floor under his feet? Although it's just a speculation, his speculation is so firm and matter-of-fact. It's worth paying attention to." Yang Dao paused for a moment. "It turns out that you're quite talented. However, what I'm going to say next is entirely up to you. Well, don't say a word about what I'm going to say today. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences." Yang Dao said, "On the Scattered Stars Island, most people only know places such as the Command Center, the Dark Hunter Legion, the Refining Hall, and the Pioneers. Even if there are some special organizations, they're only known to the public. But this place, this yard, in the entire Scattered Stars Island, few people know about it." Han Fei quickly said, "Wait a moment." Yang Dao was rather unhappy to be interrupted by Han Fei. He squinted at Han Fei. Han Fei asked, "Senior, are we free?" Yang Dao. Seeing that Yang Dao was vaguely emitting a murderous aura, he thought to himself, "Do you know how many people can't come here even if they want to?" Chao Chiu secretly raised his thumb at Han Fei. Yang Dao said gloomily, "I'm quite free. You don't have to worry about that at all." "That's good. That's good." Yang Dao snorted and continued, "There's a place on the Scattered Stars Island called the Scattered Stars 7 Units. Those who could enter the Scattered Stars 7 Units were all dragons and phoenixes among men. If you hadn't distinguished yourselves in the tide of red ghosts, and if one of you wasn't a poison refiner and the other an advanced dangling fisher, do you think I would have noticed you?" Yang Dao paused for a moment and said, "The so-called Scattered Stars 7 Units are actually the 7 most mysterious departments on the Scattered Stars Island. Only the unparalleled heavenly talents are allowed to enter the first unit. The second unit has the most members of the Scattered Stars 7 Units and is the easiest to join. The advantage is that members of the second unit can go to sea. The 3 divisions concoct medicine. No matter what kind of medicine it is, treasured medicine or poison, the 3 divisions concoct them all. The 4th unit is for refining. To join the 4th unit, you have to be able to seal souls. The 5th unit is for supervision. They're quite mysterious. They supervise the Scattered Stars Island and have the right to deploy troops. The 6th unit is for research. I don't know what they're working on, but they're good at everything. They're the ones who created this floor. This was not a department that anyone could enter just because they wanted to. You have to present some impressive research results. The 7th unit is for assassination. The members of the 7th unit never show up. They can be anybody." Yang Dao explained. Han Fei and Chao Chiu looked at each other in bewilderment. So, did Yang Dao mean that they should choose a department to join? Chapter 630. The moment Yang Dao told him about the scattered stars' 7 units, the choice had already begun. Although he could choose to leave, Han Fei wasn't an idiot. She had told you the secret. If you went out and shook it, how could you do that? Even if they didn't do anything to him, they would definitely send someone to monitor him. Cao Qiu suddenly had an idea. Research? Can we not fight? If that's the case, I'll do research. Yang Dao glanced at Cao Qiu. Like I said, you're free here. You're not required to stay here. You can do whatever you're supposed to do. Every expert has to know how to fight. Cao Qiu instantly became gloomy. We still have to fight? Yang Dao was lost for words. What the hell are you thinking? You think you don't have to fight just because you're doing research? You'll never go to the sea? Han Fei asked. So, can we choose freely? Yang Dao sneered. You can't enter the first unit. You can't enter it without enough recognition. You can't enter the 5th unit either, because you're new. The prerequisite for entering the 5th unit is to stay on the Scattered Stars Island for 3 years. As for the 7th unit, you can't enter it unless you're talented in assassination. Logically speaking, you can't enter it. However, if you can accept the assigned mission and kill the enemy without alarming anyone, you'll be qualified to enter the 7th unit. Han Fei asked in surprise, so, we can only choose from the 2nd unit, the 3rd unit, the 4th unit, and the 6th unit? Yang Dao glanced at Han Fei. Theoretically speaking, you can't enter the 6th unit. After all, you didn't create the poison. That is, unless you can come up with an awesome research project. Han Fei shook his head. I'm not interested in research. Han Fei thought for a moment. May I ask what the 2nd unit means when it says we can go to the sea? Can we go to the distant sea? Yang Dao nodded. The 2nd unit is reserved for the experts. Whenever a new treasure trove appears in the sea, the first to arrive will either be a super expert or someone from the Scattered Stars 2nd unit. Of course, there are exceptions. They can't enter certain special treasure troves. Han Fei asked timidly, well, can I choose 2 of them? Yang Dao's body trembled, and his face darkened. Do you want me to let you enter all of them? Han Fei waved his hand. Fine. I was just asking. Since it won't affect my daily life, I'll choose 4. Yang Dao narrowed his eyes. 4th unit? You can seal spirits? Han Fei smiled faintly. Yes. It shouldn't be a big problem. Yang Dao nodded. I'll lead the way. As for whether or not you can pass, that will depend on your own luck. If you can't pass, you'll have to forget everything you've heard and seen today. Otherwise, no one will be able to blame 2 people on the Scattered Stars Island, even if it's the 2nd young master of the Chao family who died. Cao Qiu shivered and quickly grabbed Han Fei's clothes. I won't tell you. I'm a genius. My research is unparalleled. You won't kill me. Pa! Immediately, Cao Qiu was slapped on the forehead. Yang Dao was lost for words. Unparalleled? Why don't you just go to heaven? Han Fei thought for a while and decided to go to sea later. He hadn't figured out the situation on the Scattered Stars Island yet, and he was about to make a breakthrough. After he mastered the 108 desolate god body and became a hanging fisher, he would be able to go to sea safely. Han Fei nodded again and said, I choose the 4th unit. Cao Qiu pulled Han Fei. I think you can choose the 6th unit too. We'll be in the same unit. Han Fei chuckled. I'm not good at research. I prefer refining. Yang Dao asked, Are you sure? Han Fei nodded. Cao Qiu nodded. Then, let's confirm it. Yang Dao smiled. Okay, the 4th unit and the 6th unit can come out and pick us up. 2 masked people walked out of the yard. Both of them were female. The shorter one pointed at Han Fei and said, You, come with me. Hearing this voice, Han Fei was taken aback and asked, Have we met before? The girl's body trembled slightly. I've never seen you before. You've got the wrong person. Yang Dao frowned and looked at Han Fei. Do you know her? Han Fei said, The voice sounds familiar, but I don't remember it. Maybe all girls have similar voices. Come with me. The masked girl sounded rather angry. She even stomped her feet, as if she were venting her dissatisfaction. Han Fei thought that he should be a member of the 4th unit for sure. He didn't remember when he met a girl with a 5-star rank, but he would get to know her sooner or later. The other girl looked at Chao Chiu and said indifferently, "You, come with me." After he entered the house, Han Fei found that there was something else here. There was a series of maze arrays in the house that could block the senses. The house was not small and had 7 barriers. However, after Han Fei followed the girl for a few steps, he could only see one barrier. Han Fei followed the girl into a house. The house was engraved with killing arrays. Han Fei's face slightly changed after he took 2 steps. He stomped and activated the 6 spirits armor. Then, an ultra-quality battle suit appeared. He waved the water-dividing seal in his hand and pressed it at the place where spiritual energy was surging. At the place where Han Fei attacked, a mystic light swept out and collided with the water-dividing seal, raising waves in the house. "Girl, don't be naughty." Han Fei's eyes were cold. "Little girl, you should be glad that this is not outside. Otherwise, you would be dead now." Seeing that the killing arrays faded away, Han Fei gradually restrained his killing intent. However, when he looked at the masked young lady, there was no longer any kindness in his eyes. Seeing this, the girl opened her mouth, pouted, and stomped her feet hard. "Humph, I'd like to see how you seal spirits. I hate people who brag the most." Han Fei was speechless. "What the hell did I do? Am I bragging? It was clearly you, little girl, who schemed against me first. Why you the first to get angry?" This time, the girl didn't dare to move. The voice that appeared just now seemed quite intimidating. Han Fei was sure that he must have seen this girl before, but he didn't know where. Did he offend her in the 36 towns? The 2 of them went down by elevator. This was quite novel to Han Fei. What an amazing operation! Even an elevator was invented? Although it was an elevator, it was actually a wheeled device. This way, it was much more convenient than going underground. At this moment in the elevator, the girl was staring at Han Fei fiercely. Han Fei waved his knife and the girl was so scared that she hurriedly stepped back and then bumped into the elevator. What do you want to do? Don't mess around. I'm a refiner, a very good one." Han Fei rolled his eyes at her and then looked at himself with the knife as a mirror. "There's nothing on my face. Why are you staring at me? Are you in love with me? I advise you to give up on this idea. I'm already taken. You have princess syndrome. You have no chance." "Pooh. Liar, I don't like you. I don't like a bragging liar like you. Besides, you are very rude. You're not good at all." Han Fei was speechless. "Slow down. No one is robbing you of me. Don't stutter." Seeing that Han Fei was mocking her, the girl immediately stomped her feet. "I'm not stuttering. Bah, I'm not stuttering." Han Fei couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that he had overestimated the selection ability of the Scattered Stars' 7 units. How could he be chosen with such a brain? It seemed that the requirements were not so strict after all. Han Fei and the masked girl stared at each other. When they reached the underground, as soon as the elevator door opened, Han Fei felt a scorching wave of air blowing at his face. What came into view was a dragon-shaped refining furnace, placed in the center of Han Fei's field of vision. The 2 of them stepped out of the elevator, and Han Fei glanced around, only to find that there was another world underground. It could be said to be a second refining hall. However, unlike the crafting hall, this was an underground cavern, and it was built in a very orderly manner. Many holes were emitting various colors of light, which was obviously caused by someone refining. There were a total of 6 people welcoming Han Fei. These people were all wearing masks. The leader was relatively tall and looked quite muscular. He was holding a hammer in his hand, and his 7-star waist tag revealed his identity. What attracted Han Fei's attention most was a boy covered in a faint frost. From his eyes, Han Fei felt that the boy should be relatively young and quite cold. In this scorching cave, the man was covered in frost. It was hard for him not to attract Han Fei's attention. The brawny man said, "Since you're going to choose the 4th unit, you'd better be prepared. It's not so easy to get into the 4th unit. You can still consider it. It's not too late to leave." Han Fei smiled. Why should I leave? Isn't it just sealing a spirit? I can do it. Liar, you're bragging. The girl who led Han Fei in snorted in dissatisfaction. She didn't seem to have any confidence that Han Fei could enter the fourth unit. The brawny man coughed. Hearing that, the girl immediately turned her head away and stopped talking, as proud as a little peacock. The brawny man said, "Come on. Refine an ultra-quality spiritual weapon and seal a spirit in 1 hour." Han Fei asked, "Right here?" The burly man said, "Right here." Chapter 631. Being a refiner was a good disguise. The Scattered Stars 4th Unit must be the authority of refining on the Scattered Stars Island. As long as he passed the certification here, he could quickly and continuously produce ultra-quality spiritual weapons. At this moment, there were more than 30 kinds of materials and a barrel of spiritual spring in front of Han Fei. On the opposite side, 7 pairs of eyes were staring at him expectantly. Only the little girl seemed to be enjoying a good show. Han Fei just glanced at the materials and raised his hands, and 16 kinds of materials floated in the air and were wrapped in spiritual energy. At the sight of this, many of the 7 people revealed disappointed expressions. Someone said, "It's just that the method of refining with spiritual energy is a bit similar to that of the mainland." The little girl said, Look, what did I say? I said he couldn't succeed, right?" The cold boy said, "Let's wait and see. Since he dares to come in, he must be confident." On the other side, while the 7 people were discussing, Han Fei was muttering in his heart, "Why does it take him an hour to refine a weapon?" Spiritual energy surged between his hands, and the spiritual spring in the barrel flew out one after another and fell next to Han Fei's mouth. Slurp. With a smile on his lips, the spiritual energy in Han Fei's eyes split and collided with each other, producing vibrations. Someone immediately said, "Isn't this spirit fusing scripture a bit too much? Such an explosion will damage the characteristics of the materials." The little girl snorted. "What's the point of being fast? The problem will come in the second step." The middle-aged man said, "He's not just smelting. He's controlling the vibration of spiritual energy, and he's controlling it very well. Through the frequency of vibration, some impurities are removed first, so that the characteristics of the materials are highlighted." The cold boy nodded. "The shortcoming is that he has to be very fast and can't make any mistakes. This requires a lot of spiritual power." While the 7 people were talking about him, in just 10 minutes, the 16 materials under Han Fei's control had been melted into one ball after another. Chilla. Han Fei turned his hand, and the spiritual energy became more violent, and a large amount of impurities were removed at once. All 7 of them were stunned to see that. Someone immediately said, "He added the effect of the spirit polishing technique to the spirit fusing technique. That's why he was able to remove most of the impurities in the first stage of spirit fusion. His control is so strong." The girl was stunned. "Is that so? That's not right. How did he control the frequency of the vibrations?" At this moment, Han Fei had begun to gather spiritual energy. In the first 20 breaths, he had already removed about 80% of the impurities. Next was the method of quenching. At this moment, the 7 people on the other side were all moved. To their surprise, they discovered that Han Fei had formed an extremely dense net of spiritual energy and filtered it back and forth. Even the burly man with 7 stars couldn't help but be moved. This child's control over spiritual chi had already reached a terrifying level. Furthermore, the spiritual energy flowing out of his body was extremely pure, and the effect of the spirit tempering was much better than that of ordinary people. Another 80 breaths later, the spirit tempering was completed. The 7 of them were stunned. "So fast?" The girl couldn't help but exclaim, "How can he be so fast?" Suddenly, the others all looked at her, and the burly man said, "Don't make a sound. Don't disturb him while he's refining." The last step was, of course, spirit refinement. Fusing various materials was a test of the method of fusion. It was completely different from splicing. Fusion required all materials to be fused into one, and splicing was only a small part of it. Han Fei condensed a piece of refined mystic crystal fluid into the shape of a long knife. Then, a sand-like mystic yarn seemed to be slapped into the mystic crystal fluid by him, giving the feeling that he was refining by force. Is he crazy? Is he fusing by force? Why didn't the mystic crystal fluid collapse? He's taking advantage of the gaps. He scattered the mystic crystal liquid and stuffed other materials into it through the gaps between the mystic crystal liquid. Then he smelted it again. More than that, he's using spiritual energy to stabilize the materials so that they didn't collapse. Han Fei repeated the method of the spirit tempering scripture 16 times in a row. When all the materials were fused in, the spiritual energy was suddenly ignited. The burly man said via voice transmission, "Sure enough, this step is the key. Otherwise, the method just now will cause the spiritual energy in the weapon to be compressed, and it can only be refined into a high-quality spiritual weapon at most. But now it's different." He burned the spiritual energy with the method of spirit burning. Not only can he strengthen the weapon, but he can also refine it again. As the spiritual energy was burned and compressed, a long knife appeared in front of everyone. The ultra-quality spiritual weapon had been refined. Han Fei smiled and grabbed the handle of the knife. "How is it?" Only the girl was dumbfounded and said after a long time, "Don't be too proud. It's just an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. You still have to seal the soul. That's the key." The frosty young man suddenly said, "It took him 240 seconds, less than half an hour." Hearing this, everyone immediately realized that they had forgotten about it. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, this fellow had refined a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. How fucking fast was that? It was more than 5 times faster than ordinary people. The burly man took a deep look at Han Fei. It is indeed an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, but sealing the soul still needs to be tested. After saying that, the brawny man casually tossed out a level 36 hopping fish. The hopping fish's fins were like 2 hands, which could support the upper half of its body. Its 2 eyes were round on the top of its head, and its visual range was not small. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Names: hopping fish. Introduction: a mudflat fish with an unusual spiritual fruit. It likes to jump and has the ability to flash. It can jump 100 meters away in an instant. And as its level increases, the distance of its flash will become larger and larger. It can spew energy water bullets from its mouth, but the effect is mediocre. Level 36, quality rare, contains spiritual energy greater than 1,110 points. Effect: it tastes delicious. Long-term consumption will help you understand the 1,000-mile fishing technique. Collectible. None. Han Fei was taken aback. "Where can I catch this fish?" The burly man said casually, "There are many places. Why don't you seal it?" Han Fei glanced at his wrist. He was already very good at sealing souls. At first, he didn't know how to do it, so he threw the weapon and the sealed spiritual beast into the demon purification pot. But he didn't need it now. When he sealed the blue sea wandering dragon daggers, he simply caught the creature and let the demon purification pot deprive its soul and stuff it into the weapon. However, Han Fei wasn't sure if he could be seen through, so he said, "My soul sealing technique is a secret of my family. Can you give me a separate room so that I can seal souls?" The girl said, "No, who knows if you'll secretly change to a different knife?" Han Fei was lost for words. "Do I know what materials you've prepared for me in advance?" However, Han Fei still threw the long knife to the girl. "Why don't you make a mark on it?" The burly man said, "Okay, girl, stop messing around. Spirit sealing techniques vary greatly, so we won't force you on this matter. Follow me." Han Fei showed off to the girl and then casually grabbed the hopping fish. But the moment he grabbed it, the hopping fish disappeared with a swish. With a thought, Han Fei threw out his fishing rod and hooked it to the left, which also broke through the air. The hopping fish was tied up by Han Fei the moment it popped out of the air. Everyone looked at Han Fei in astonishment, as if they were all surprised that this kid's reaction speed was so fast. Just now, The burly man only wanted to test Han Fei's strength as an advanced dangling fisher. So, when he threw the hopping fish, he didn't tie it up at all. Now that he looked at it, he was indeed outstanding in some aspects. Although Han Fei's level was still low, his strength couldn't be underestimated in the situation just now. The burly man led Han Fei to a random cave and said, "The time is still the same as before. Now, it only took you half an hour to refine the weapon, so you should have enough time to seal the soul." Grabbing the hopping fish, Han Fei walked into the array gate. They waited outside. Someone said, "If he can enter the 4th unit, I'm afraid he will be the first advanced dangling fisher in the Scattered Stars 7th unit in years, right?" Someone laughed and said, "Few advanced dangling fishers can get 3 stars in the first place. If he can get 3 stars, it means that he's different. I don't think it will be a problem for him to seal the soul. It will take a little longer at most, which is why he refuses to show it to me alone." The frosty young man said, "Not necessarily." The girl said angrily, "Why not? It must be. Let me tell you, he just bought my refiner's crash course a month ago." The girl suddenly covered her mouth and thought to herself, "Oh, I spilled the beans." The burly man said, "No, wait a minute. What did you say?" While everybody was staring at the girl, the door suddenly flashed and Han Fei had come out. Seeing that everybody was staring at the girl, Han Fei asked curiously, "Is there a flower growing out of her?" The girl said, "Didn't I ask you to seal the soul? Why are you out again? Don't make excuses. It's too late to go to the 4th unit." Han Fei was lost for words. "I've already sealed it. What am I doing inside if I don't come out?" Chapter 632. The little girl was stunned. "Wait, what did you say? You've already sealed it? How did you seal it? Where is your knife?" The others were also stunned. "We haven't even finished talking and you've already sealed the spirit?" Seeing that everyone was staring at him, Han Fei immediately stretched out his hand and a knife appeared. The little girl was stunned. "Wait, why did you recognize me as your master?" Han Fei smiled faintly. "I had to come in anyway. It's just an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. It's not a big deal, is it?" "No, it's not a big deal." The little girl was stunned, dumbfounded, and shocked. 1 month? This guy became a 3-star refiner in 1 month? How could he be so fast? He just bought the refining method from the refining hall a month ago. Could it be that this person was really a refining equipment that was hard to come by in 100 years? More importantly, doesn't it mean that from now on, the title of refining genius will only belong to number 3? The little girl immediately stomped her feet. "No, I must become a 4-star refiner earlier than him. Yes, that's it. I must be faster than him." The 7-star brawny man directly took off his mask. No matter how Han Fei did it, he had already done it, so he was already a member of the 4th unit. One after another, the other people showed up. Only this little girl was unwilling to take off her mask now. Instead, she pulled the mask tighter over her face. "Girl, take off your mask." "I won't take it off. Han Fei will be a member of the 4th unit from now on. Even if you don't take it off now, you'll have to take it off in the future." "No, I'll wear a mask in the future." Han Fei was speechless. What's wrong with this girl? "So you'll wear a mask to see me in the future?" The frosty young man said lightly, "Muj, do you know Han Fei?" Han Fei was slightly taken aback. "Muja, the name sounds a bit familiar." Suddenly, Han Fei looked at the girl. "Are you the woman who wrote the quick guide for new refiners and sold it to me?" "Guan Qingyan, will you die if you don't speak?" The girl immediately took off her mask and looked at Han Fei angrily. Yes, I am. Did you gain some enlightenment after reading my instant completion grimoire?" Han Fei paused for a moment. "Well, I forgot, I haven't seen it yet." "Han Fei, you did it on purpose. You must have done it on purpose." Mu Jia was furious. "Didn't you read it? Did you want to say it? Can't you just say you saw it? Why are you so insensible?" Han Fei ignored the nervous little girl. Why did he feel like he knew this girl? So it was the genius blacksmith, Muja. At this moment, the little girl was still angry, but Han Fei had already contacted several other people. The middle-aged man that he had thought was not middle-aged. He looked like he was in his 30s and still felt like a young man. The frosty Guan Qingyan was looking at Han Fei curiously. How did you do it? Guan Qingyan asked, how did you seal the soul in less than 10 minutes? Han Fei had already thought of an excuse. He couldn't help but say, it's simple. As long as I poke a knife in its head and say a few words to it, it will be fine. One is that if it doesn't become a weapon spirit, it will die and its soul will be destroyed. The other is that if it becomes a weapon spirit, it will be immortal. What do you think it will choose? Impossible. How could it be? How can it be so simple? For a moment, everyone was stunned. Are you fucking bragging to us? If it was so simple, wouldn't all refiners be able to seal souls? Mu Jia scoffed. You liar, lie. Only Guan Qingyan was pondering, and then he wondered, how do I communicate with marine creatures? Is there a secret technique of communication? Suddenly, Guan Qingyan looked shocked. Is there a secret technique of communication in your family? Even Han Fei was stunned. This young man is great. This answer is even better than the one he made up. Han Fei originally wanted to say that he could confuse marine creatures with arrays and make them make the wrong choice. But this guy had changed the excuse that he was about to say. Yes, it's the secret technique of communication. Unfortunately, my bloodline only inherited half of the secret technique. I can only talk to it, but I can't listen to it. It's said that someone in my ancestors' family can understand any creature. That's an incredible bloodline. Guan Qingyan asked solemnly, is your ancestor from an ancient refining family in the Thousand-Star City? Han Fei replied, not exactly. My family is in ruins. Even my father's generation lived in the village. How can it be an ancient family? However, bloodline inheritance is hard to say. I heard that it's called intergenerational inheritance. Do you know that? I only found out about it a few months ago. As he spoke, Han Fei put his hand on Guan Qingyan's shoulder. By the way, this is a secret. You can't tell anyone. The others were all stunned. Even the 7-star expert couldn't help but ask, is there such a bloodline? Muj said angrily, that's impossible. I've read all the books and unofficial histories of refining, but I've never heard of such an incredible bloodline. Uncle Bei Hua, don't be fooled by him. Han Fei shook his head with a smile. You're too ignorant. The rise and fall of refining is more than 10,000 years. You're just a little girl. How can you read all of it? How many records can there be? Some things are obliterated by history, but only a few words remain. You can see and hear them? Didn't you say that you became a 3-star refiner in half a year? Where did you find the time to read so many books? Mu Jia blushed. She clenched her fists and stomped the ground anxiously. It only took me half a year, because I used all the time before to digest them. Han Fei mimicked her tone. Why don't you think about it? Everything has a spirit. For example, birds, insects, fish, and crabs. Do you really think I'm brainless? Little girl, there's always someone better than you. Mu Jia said angrily, you said I stuttered again. Han Fei opened his hands. Did I? Mu Jia asked, that's exactly what you meant. Han Fei said, that's your own understanding. It has nothing to do with me. Mu Jia pointed at Han Fei. You? Han Fei stuck out his tongue. Don't panic. I don't want you to call me, again, Uncle Bei Hua, he's bullying me. Han Fei, the middle-aged brawny man, shook his head helplessly. Bloodlines can't be verified after all. However, the Scattered Stars 7 units only accept heavenly talents. In any case, Han Fei was truly a genius in refining after refining and sealing souls in one go. Clap, clap, clap. Uncle Bei Hua clapped his hands and roared, come out and meet the new member. After Bei Hua's roar, a couple of people walked out of the 100 caves. Yes, there were so many holes, and it seemed like there were only 7 or 8 people illuminating the ground with a myriad of colors. Someone laughed. New member? What a surprise. Boss Beihua, is the new member good? Someone welcomed them. It's been a long time since we had a new member. Hello, my name is Gunan. A woman with bare arms said, Yo. An advanced dangling fisher. He seems to be as good as and Qinyan. Someone nodded. He's so young. Has an unparalleled heavenly talent come to the 4th unit? Those people greeted Han Fei and introduced themselves. Then they all surrounded him. 2 of them were girls. One of them had a great figure and looked like a mature woman. The other looked rather plain. The mature woman, however, said, Brother, do you mind dating a younger man? Han Fei instantly sweated. Is this how you greet each other? Who can resist that? Mu Jia pouted and said, Sister Qingqing, don't be fooled by his appearance. Xie Qingqing chuckled. Jia, are you in love with him? Fine, I won't compete with you for him. Mu Jia blushed. Who would be in love with such a braggart? Someone smiled. Jia, it's fine if you're in love with him. He's an insider. Cough, cough. Uncle Beihua coughed heavily and pretended to be angry. Just talk nicely. Don't let the new member laugh at us. However, Uncle Beihua was too kind to be angry. It seemed that nobody was listening to him. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder what kind of department he had joined. Beihua, however, said, What? Han Fei, as you can see, it's not that the 4th unit is understaffed. It's just that everybody is free, so there aren't many people here. Let's get to know each other first. A moment later, after a round of greetings, 5 or 6 of them left and went back to their refining. The few who were more active were surrounding Han Fei. Xie Qingqing asked, Boss, did you change his waist tag? Beihua was stunned. Yes, I almost forgot about that. Beihua picked up his waist tag and said to it, The 4th unit has a new member named Han Fei, an advanced dangling fisher with 3 stars. I would like to add a star. Han Fei was stunned. So simple? Xie Qingqing said gloomily, Simple? You're probably the first one to say that. The 4th unit is not a place that you can just join. If you can seal souls, adding a star is nothing. Look at Jia. She joined 6 months earlier than you, but she's already a 5-star. Even if you add a star, you'll still have the lowest number of stars in the 4th unit. Mu Jia's eyes glittered when she heard that. Yes, you're the lowest. So, you're my junior brother. Han Fei was lost for words. No, wait a moment. Where did this relationship of yours come from? We're colleagues at best. Mu Jia said, Yes, you're my junior brother. You're the latest and have the lowest number of stars. Han Fei, I won't listen, I won't listen, I won't listen, Han Fei. Chapter 633. Han Fei saw one more star on his waist tag with his own eyes. Thinking of the files of everyone in the Scattered Stars City, Han Fei suddenly felt that the management and monitoring here were quite strict. What were the requirements for a 4-star rank? Han Fei knew that 300,000 points were the foundation. It seemed that he still had to hold 5 battles before he could get a 4-star rank. It didn't seem to be very difficult. But on second thought, 300,000 points were not easy to get at all. In theory, even if Ling Yun and the others harvested every day, they generally wouldn't get more than 1,000 points. On average, it would be good if they could get 500 points. After all, the seaside didn't belong to his family. Many people were harvesting, and if there were more people, there wouldn't be enough things to share. Even if there were 500 points every day, it would take 600 days to get 300,000 points. That would be almost 2 years. Even with the monthly post salary and the extra rewards he got from participating in battles, he could shorten the 600 days to a year at most. And this was when he didn't need to buy weapons, techniques, and combat skills. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to get 4 stars in a year. And this didn't include the time for cultivation. A normal person who worked hard every day on the Scattered Stars Island could only get 300,000 points in a year. But Han Fei just entered the Scattered Stars 4th unit, passed the assessment, and was already a 4-star without adding any points. This speed could be said to be the envy of bystanders. At this moment, Guan Qingyan stretched out his hand and said coldly, "Let's keep in touch." Han Fei thought for a moment. This iceberg boy was not simple. After all, there were only two people who dared to call themselves refining geniuses. As for Mu Jia, Han Fei had a headache. Guan Qingyan, on the other hand, was cold and didn't talk much. It was a good idea to add him as a friend. He didn't bother Han Fei, so he could talk to him about refining when he was interested. But just after Han Fei and Guan Qingyan exchanged contact information, Mu Jia also turned her head and didn't look at Han Fei, but her hand reached out to Han Fei's chest. Han Fei asked, "What are you doing?" Mu Jia pouted. "The fourth unit has to exchange contact information." Han Fei looked at Guan Qingyan. "Is that so?" Guan Qingyan shook his head. "Whatever." Mu Jia's little face rubbed and then she blushed. "Guan Qingyan, go away." Guan Qingyan said indifferently, "I have something to discuss with Brother Han about refining." Mu Jia said, "I'm senior sister." Han Fei was amused. "Don't flatter yourself. There are no senior sisters in the 4th division." Mu Jia puffed up her cheeks. "I'm the senior sister." "But you just wanted to PM me. I'll give you a chance, but don't come to me for no reason. I'm very busy." "I'm not looking for you." Han Fei was amused. "Why did you add me if you didn't look for me?" Mu Jia said, "Why do you care?" After sending Mu Jia away, Han Fei looked at Bei Hua and asked, "Uncle, is the 4-star title really just an extra star?" Bei Hua looked like a nice guy. He said with a smile, "Of course not. The communication range of a 4-star rank had already reached 200 miles. If you have 5 stars, your contact range will be 500 miles. Han Fei asked in surprise, "Then wouldn't the 6 or 7 stars cover the entire scattered stars island?" Bei Hua nodded. "Of course. The range of communication of a 7-star rank is 5,000 kilometers. Han Fei couldn't help but look forward to it. Although the effect was not as good as a cell phone, it was not bad. What did 5,000 kilometers mean? It meant voice transmission from 1,000 kilometers away. Bei Hua said, "You've just joined the Scattered Stars 4th unit. There are a few jobs that you need to learn. Everyone in the 4th unit needs to provide 20 ultra-quality spiritual weapons with sealed souls every month. Of course, the materials will be provided by the 4th unit. Also, you need to spend 1 day in the 4th unit every month to study the forging methods of divine weapons together." As he spoke, Bei Hua said with a smile, "In fact, it won't take much time. Also, make a trip to the refining hall later and collect your 3-star craftsman certificate. With a 3-star certificate, you can enjoy a half-price discount when renting a room in the refining hall. If you become a 4-star refiner in the future, you'll be able to use the refining rooms in the refining hall for free. As for the refining in this place, of course, it's free, but it's located in a secret place, and we can't come here every day." Han Fei grinned delightfully, thinking that his refining business would definitely multiply with the 3-star refiner certificate. By then, he would be able to earn a lot of credits. Mu Jia asked, "Why are you smiling like an idiot?" "Am I smiling?" "Yes." Han Fei pondered. "Shouldn't I be smiling? Forget it. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I'm going back to collect the rent. Some anti-poison fruits." Guan Qingyan looked at Han Fei. "Brother Han, do you want to talk? I have a lot of questions." Han Fei paused. "Maybe next time. I was caught in the middle of a battle. My teammates seem to have been poisoned. I need to get some anti-poison fruits to comfort them." Guan Qingyan nodded. "That explains a lot. Then let's talk next time." Han Fei nodded. "Of course." In the elevator, Han Fei memorized the route of the killing array, put on a mask, and left the yard. Ever since he became an official member of the Scattered Stars 7th unit, Han Fei's identity had been protected. He had to wear a mask when he went out. Yang Dao had already left. Han Fei wondered if Chao Qiu passed the test. Naturally, Han Fei took out his boat and rushed to the refining hall. The procedure for exchanging for a 3-star refiner was very simple. The refining hall seemed to have known it a long time ago. So, after Han Fei stated his purpose, he got his 3-star refiner certificate in no more than half an hour. He didn't contact Xiaobai or Lu Renquang, who seemed to be busier than him, unlike his job, which was to investigate and fight. It was already night when he returned to the skeleton shore. When Han Fei came back with 4 stars, many people exclaimed, "Wow, 4 stars? Congratulations, Captain Han. You've been promoted to 4 stars. 4 stars? That's too fast. He's only been here for a month. He's already got 4 stars as an advanced dangling fisher?" Immediately, someone came close and asked, "Captain Han, how did you get 4 stars? Captain Han, what did the hidden fisher do when he took you to the front line? How did you get 4 stars as soon as you came back? Captain Han, did you make a great contribution in the front line?" Han Fei was surrounded by them. Yu Lingyun and the others who came in a hurry were infuriated to see that. Yu Lingyun said angrily, "Get out of the way. Don't surround our captain." Wu Xiaoxiao said, "Get out of the way. This is our captain, not yours." Gu Daliang held his hands and said, "Don't block the way. Disperse." After they pushed the crowd away, they saw that Han Fei was slowly putting a new tag on his waist. Immediately, someone exclaimed, "Is this a 3-star refiner certificate?" Wow, the crowd was seething. Last night, Han Fei had just refined an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. On the other side, Han Fei actually got the 3-star refiner certificate back. What kind of speed was that? Han Fei said unhurriedly, "Don't panic, everyone. Today, I made friends with the hidden fisher and many friends. While discussing my experience, I accidentally sealed a soul and got myself a 3-star refiner certificate. Today is a great day. I've decided to reduce the refining fee by another 10%. Wow! Really? Are you sure? So cheap? Captain Han, will the sealing fee be reduced by 10% too?" Han Fei said unhurriedly, "Of course. However, it's quite troublesome to seal a soul, and I can't let it go to waste. But we're all colleagues. How can I charge you a high fee? So, I've decided that even ultra-quality spiritual weapons with sealed souls can be owed in the form of credits. However, as long as you're still alive, remember to pay me back. Otherwise, I'll lose a lot of money." "Oh, Captain Han, you're our role model. Captain Han, you're our role model. Captain Han, you're so benevolent." For a moment, howls echoed everywhere. A spirit artifact with a sealed spirit was not something that just anyone could obtain. Everybody in the 8th Battalion was overjoyed by Han Fei's decision to reduce the fee and let them owe him. In such a way, wouldn't the 8th Battalion be armed to the teeth in only a few months? Apart from everything else, their overall combat power would probably be multiplied. Yu Lingyun said, "Are you crazy? Life and death are predestined in a war. Aren't you afraid that you can't take it back?" Wu Xiaoxiao said, "Captain, even though we're comrades, you're too nice." Han Fei immediately responded with a stern face, "Hey, don't be short-sighted. Our responsibility is to work for the peace of the scattered stars island. For peace, for prosperity, and for the thousands of soldiers who are fighting on the front line, who will go to hell if I don't." Immediately, someone echoed, "Captain Han, you're my blood brother from now on." Someone criticized Yu Lingyun, "You're short-sighted. Captain Han is a heavenly talent. How can you girls understand what he's thinking?" Someone agreed, "That's right. Yu Lingyun, you should be happy that Captain Han is so righteous." Han Fei was grinning, but his mind was already elsewhere. "That's a lot of money." Cough cough. Han Fei. Suddenly, a voice came from the sky. The crowd immediately fell silent. When Han Fei looked back, he found that Yang Dao, Zhong Han, and Chao Qiu had landed. Han Fei was dumbfounded. "What's going on?" Yang Dao casually glanced at Han Fei and said unhurriedly, "Everybody, gather up." The group of 2-star and 3-star lackeys of the 8th Battalion instantly formed a formation and stood meticulously when they saw the arrival of the 7-star big shot. Yu Lingyun and the others immediately stood behind the dumbfounded Han Fei. Yang Dao said indifferently, "From today on, Zhong Han, the captain of the 8th Battalion of the 3rd Column, will be transferred. The 8th Battalion will have 2 deputy captains, Han Fei, the former captain of the 37th Squad, and Chao Qiu next to me." Han Fei? Everyone? The first update? Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 634. Everybody was shocked by Yang Dao's words. Everybody in the 8th Battalion looked at each other in bewilderment. Although they had now completely accepted Han Fei and guessed that Han Fei was a god's favored one, they didn't dare to underestimate him. However, Han Fei was only an advanced dangling fisher after all. As for Chao Qiu, he was clearly a junior hanging fisher. Although both of them had 4 stars, they weren't as prestigious as Zhong Han, who was a peak-level hanging fisher. Han Fei was dumbfounded himself. "I can lead a squad, no problem at all. I can spare a lot of time for my own business. However, being a captain? Are you kidding me? I don't have time to be a captain." Immediately, Han Fei stepped forward. "Lord Yang, I'm only an advanced dangling fisher. I'm not qualified to be a captain." Yang Kai sneered. "Why are you suppressing your strength as an advanced dangling fisher? You have to become a peak-level dangling fisher in 3 days and a hanging fisher in 3 months. Han Fei was stunned. "Lord Yang, I'm a body refiner. Isn't 3 months a little too short?" Yang Kai snorted. "You've already made a breakthrough. It's only a matter of time before you become a peak-level hanging fisher. You'll be one of the best peak-level hanging fishers once you make a breakthrough. What's there to be scared of? What about you? Your mission is to guard the skeleton shore for half a year. The mortality rate must be no higher than 20% in half a year." Han Fei instantly looked at Zhong Han. Zhong Han had just received the news too. He thought to himself, "What's the point of looking at me? Who told you to be so cocky during the tide of red ghosts? I'm going to be transferred right now." Yang Dao grinned. "It's useless to look at him. Nobody will care about the skeleton shore in half a year. It's all up to you." Han Fei instantly asked telepathically, "Senior, who did I piss off?" Yang Dao glanced at Han Fei and replied, "It's not easy to be a genius. This is the assessment of you after the comprehensive review by the command center. Perform well, and you'll be given the honorary title of Guardian of the Sea after half a year." After that, Yang Dao pushed Chao Qiu forward and jumped on the boat with Zhong Han. "Take care of yourselves. If we lose the skeleton shore, all of you will be punished." Yang Dao and Zhong Han flew away, leaving Han Fei and all the members of the 8th Battalion stunned. Chao Qiu ran over eagerly. "Han Fei, we're comrades now." Han Fei said angrily, "Go away, you piece of trash." Chao Qiu said bitterly, "I am now the designated deputy captain of the 8th Battalion." Wu Xiaoxiao pulled Han Fei's clothes. "Captain, you're our captain now that you're a captain, right?" The crowd continued to discuss. What's going on? Will this work? Why did someone suddenly appear out of nowhere? Don't tell me he got in through the back door? Could it be that he's also a genius? That day, during the Red Spirit Tide, I saw this person. Everyone was afraid of Zhong Han, but not Han Fei. It was just that he wasn't used to being addressed this way. The captains, in particular, were of the same rank as Han Fei. Now that he had inexplicably fallen a level lower, he still felt a little indignant in his heart. Immediately, someone asked, "Captain? Han Fei, what kind of rules are we going to establish?" "Brother Han, who is this fatty?" Han Fei was quite angry that he had been given the position of deputy captain for no reason. It couldn't have been a simple matter. Who could bear the fact that something happened to him every now and then? However, since the order had been given, Han Fei could only grit his teeth and say, "Don't panic, everyone. Don't regard me as a captain yet. Let's continue to refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons." As for the person next to me, he is Chao Qiu, the famous deadly poison master who once struck fear into people's hearts. Chao Qiu was stunned. What the hell? Since when did I become a lethal poison master? This lethal poison master? So terrifying that people tremble in fear at the sound of it? Captain Han, could it be that this Captain Chow has some sort of awe-inspiring battle record? Han Fei raised his head. Speaking of military exploits, our lethal poison master once wiped out a 300-kilometer tide of crabs with a drop of the king of poison. Another example is that he once shook the 7 major sects of the Thousand-Star City with his own poison and forced many heavenly talents of the big clans to retreat. Hiss. So powerful? It sounds like it's very powerful. No, this guy is a bit poisonous. We'd better stay away from him. I think Han Fei is more approachable. Chao Qiu was dumbfounded. What do you mean I shook the 7 major sects with my poison? When did I become the heavenly talents of the big clans? However, looking at the expressions of those people, it seemed that they were quite happy. Immediately, Chao Qiu smiled happily. Han Fei is so good at bragging that even I almost believe it. Han Fei immediately smiled at everyone and said, "Everyone, go back and do what you should do. Those who needed to defend, those who needed to stand guard, those who needed to keep watch, those who needed to investigate. I need to carefully study the future of our 8th Battalion with Captain Chow. Tomorrow morning, we will come up with a development plan for the next 6 months. Please wait and see." Then, Han Fei dragged Chao Qiu to the woodland nearby, and Wu Xiaoxiao shouted behind him, "Captain, where are you going?" Han Fei said without looking back, "I'm going to discuss something important. You can make your own arrangements." After a moment, Chao Qiu gasped and said, "What's wrong? Do you have any ideas?" However, the title of Lethal Poison Master is not bad. I like it. Han Fei was speechless. Why do you like it? Sit down. Han Fei and Chao Qiu sat on the ground, and Han Fei asked, "Wait, why did you come to my 8th Battalion? Did you bring that hidden fisher here?" Chao Qiu curled his lips. "Of course not. I just applied for a transfer to your place. When we cooperate, we are invincible." Han Fei's face was black. "Invincible? Tell me first, why did you come to the Scattered Stars Island? Who else is here? Where are they?" Chao Qiu grinned. "You want to ask Sun Mu and the others, right? Don't worry, although we are from the big clans in the Thousand-Star City, they have to follow the rules when they come to the Scattered Stars Island. At least before they get 5-star titles, they won't have time to trouble you." "Why?" Chao Qiu exclaimed, "You don't know." Han Fei asked, "What do I know?" Chao Qiu explained, "Of course, only when we get 5-star titles can we be considered free people." Han Fei said indifferently, "I know this. 5-star titles mean that you can go to sea. 6-star titles mean that you can go to sea alone. They are known as slaughterers on the Scattered Stars Island. This is common sense. I've known it for a long time." Han Fei was very distressed. He planned to keep a low profile for half a year, and then it shouldn't be a problem for him to become a hanging fisher. Plus, as a refiner, he could slowly rise. But now, he was suddenly promoted to the position of captain, which made him feel strange. As the saying went, the tallest tree in the forest is the first to be destroyed by the wind. It was fine in the level 3 fishery, but there were many masters on the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei asked, "The people from the Thousand-Star City are all here for training. Did they bring a large number of servants?" Chao Qiu chuckled. Don't worry. Let me tell you, in the unknown place, it doesn't matter if you kill them." Han Fei obviously didn't believe him. Chao Qiu just wanted to kill Sun Mu and the others. He wouldn't be fooled. Chao Qiu patted Han Fei's arm. "Believe it. What is the unknown place? If the big clans of the Thousand-Star City want to intervene, they have to ask Shueishenqi, the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island." Han Fei was taken aback. Can the supreme commander here not give face to the Thousand-Star City? Chao Qiu smiled and said, "Of course not, although the forces of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City are also complicated here. Although the big clans of the Thousand-Star City have complicated forces here, believe me, they can't control this place. Especially when we go to sea in the future, who will know if you kill someone? If they want to investigate, they have to get through Shueishenqi first. Even if they get through Shueishenqi and find the murderer, they can't do whatever they want. With that, Chao Qiu leaned closer to Han Fei. It is said that there is someone above Shueishenqi. It is because of this person in the unknown place that the safety of this place is ensured. Otherwise, who can stop a big demon from attacking? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Isn't Shueishenqi the supreme commander? There is someone above him? Who else is there? But that's a matter of more than a dozen star ranks. It's not Han Fei's time to worry about it now. What Han Fei was worried about now was that he would be blamed by this captain. How could he have the time to manage a team? He felt that if it was possible, he wouldn't even want to be a captain anymore. The other was that Sun Mu and the others were looking for trouble. It was impossible that the big clans of the Thousand-Star City had no foundation here. He just hoped that those people wouldn't come now. It was not the right time to declare war on those people. Han Fei asked, "Are you sure Sun Mu and the others have no time to come and bother us?" Chao Qiu nodded. Han Fei suddenly asked, "Is Tang Gu here?" Chao Qiu was taken aback. "He should be here. Logically speaking, he should be here, but my group didn't see him. Why do you ask him?" Han Fei shrugged. "It's okay. Tang Gu is a good opponent." Chao Qiu, second update? Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 635. Under Chao Qiu's repeated assurances, Han Fei reluctantly believed the fact that in the unknown place, even the big clans in the Thousand-Star City couldn't do whatever they wanted. Back in the level 3 fishery, Han Fei was just not sure. Otherwise, he would definitely have killed a group of people on the steps into the sea. Thinking of this, Han Fei couldn't help asking, how strong are they now? Chao Qiu glanced at Han Fei. You have to work hard. As early as when they returned to the Thousand-Star City, within a month, almost all of them had broken through to the Hanging Fisher realm. The strongest one, like my brother, has already become an intermediate Hanging Fisher, and this is the case when he suppresses his strength. Han Fei was speechless. Wait a minute, isn't Chao Tian a body refiner? How can he make a breakthrough so fast? Chao Qiu glanced at Han Fei. Body refiners can also be fast. My family is rich and has all kinds of auxiliary materials for cultivation. It's not normal if I'm not fast. Han Fei's face was black. No, I really have to make a breakthrough in the next 2 days. If I don't make a breakthrough now, after half a year, those old opponents will all become advanced Hanging Fishers or even peak-level Hanging Fishers. Even if I'm invincible in the same realm, I'll still be beaten by them sooner or later. Chao Qiu nudged Han Fei with his elbow. Hey, what should I do? This is the first time I lead a team. I'm a little nervous. Han Fei said grumpily, you're going to take them into the sea to investigate. When you encounter enemies, you have to take the lead. Are you sure you can lead them? Chao Qiu's face stiffened and he said in astonishment, I am the deputy captain of the 8th Battalion. Do I have to go to the sea to investigate in person? Han Fei sneered. Otherwise, how do you think you can convince the others? Even if you rely on the Poison King, don't you have to show the power of the Poison King? Chao Qiu was immediately discouraged. No. Today, I used most of the Poison King, and there are only less than 20 caddies left. And some Poison Smoke King can't last a few days. Han Fei nudged Chao Qiu and said, So, the first step is to make money first. Chao Qiu was stunned. Make money? I have plenty of money. I brought 50 million high-quality pearls with me this time. If it weren't for my sister, I would have brought hundreds of millions first. Han Fei was exhausted. I fought so hard, robbed the dragon boats and opened the gambling house, but I only made 15 million high-quality pearls in total. Xia Xiaochan and the others each gave more than 1 million, leaving less than 10 million. This was not even enough to make up for the pocket money given by the family. Han Fei licked his lips. It would be great if I could rob a big clan. Chao Qiu asked, What did you say? Han Fei came back to himself. I say, you have money but you don't use it, are you stupid? At this time, what should you do? First, buy some anti-poison fruits, then buy a few thousand types of poisons, and then create a poison god. Who wouldn't be convinced by that? Chao Chiu thought for a moment. That makes sense. Shall we go shopping tomorrow? Han Fei shook his head. Go buy top-level anti-poison fruits tomorrow. I'm afraid that even if I have money, I might not be able to buy it. I've already researched it for you. There are top-grade anti-poison fruits in the logistics division. But it's too expensive. Do you know how many points it costs? Chao Chiu asked in a daze. How many points? Han Fei extended 8 fingers. I've checked them all. The top-level anti-poison fruit, 1000 poison fruit, is worth 8 million points. In the logistics division, high-quality pearls are not allowed to be used to buy it. How many points do you have right now? Stunned for a moment, Chao Chiu looked at his waist tag. 50,000 points. I just got them today. Han Fei was stunned. He quickly looked at his waist tag. It showed that he had 176,542 points, 50,000 more than this morning. Han Fei was lost for words. Why don't you have any points at all? Chao Chiu said, I didn't fight. So, I don't have any other points. Han Fei wanted to cover his head. Yang Dao, why did you send such a useless guy to be my equal? Isn't it better for me to be the captain? Han Fei sighed. Fine, you can go buy some anti-poison fruits and poisons tomorrow. It will be best if you can develop the latest batch of poison gods. Then I'll take you with me and you'll take the poison god. Let's go on a killing spree and intimidate the sea demons. Chao Chiu was instantly amused. That's fine. But what are you going to do tomorrow? Didn't we say that we were going to discuss a half-year plan? Han Fei sneered. Plan? I'll watch it tomorrow morning. You're not leading the team, and I can't lead them all by myself. What can I do? I can only refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons for them to improve their combatability and survivability, right? Chao Chiu showed admiration. I heard everything just now. You refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons for them and allow them to owe you. That will definitely boost their morale. Han Fei snorted and thought to himself, what do you know? You don't even know how profitable it is. The next day, everybody was gathered. Although the column expressed deep doubts about whether or not Han Fei and Chao Chiu could lead the team well, Han Fei and Chao Chiu were captains after all. However, Han Fei and Chao Chiu were captains after all, and both of them had 4 stars. In terms of status, they were higher than them, so they had to listen to their orders. At this moment, Han Fei stood before everyone with a gloomy face. Last night, Deputy Captain Chao and I thought hard for a whole night. We designed dozens of plans and rejected dozens of plans. Chao Chiu tilted his head and looked at Han Fei. Did we? Didn't we just chat for a while and then go to eat hot pot? Han Fei said solemnly, after thinking for a long time, I suddenly feel that the plan can't keep up with the changes. I want to ask you a few questions. Please answer them enthusiastically. Who can tell me why you appeared on the skeleton shore? What's the purpose of your garrison here? Han Fei's eyes lit up. Yu Lingyun answer. Yu Lingyun immediately straightened up. Our appearance on the skeleton shore was naturally arranged by the higher-ups. The purpose of our garrison here is naturally to prevent the invasion of sea demons. Han Fei immediately said angrily, wrong. Yu Lingyun's answer is a typical negative example. Everyone keep it in mind. Yu Lingyun was speechless. Why did it become a negative example? She couldn't help but ask, what's wrong? Han Fei said, let me ask you again, why did you come to the Scattered Stars Island? Yu Lingyun said without thinking, of course because I'm strong enough, so I was arranged to come here. Han Fei looked at the others and asked, is your answer the same? Weren't we all arranged to come here? There's nothing wrong with this answer. They were all confused. Was there anything wrong with Yu Lingyun's answer? Han Fei said regretfully, what's wrong with your brains? Who has the right to arrange for you? Your life is your own. Why should you give it to others? As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked. Someone said, what we're doing on the Scattered Stars Island is protecting the safety of the billions of people in the 36 towns and the 1,000-star city. Han Fei sneered. Can you protect their safety? You've become a blind follower. You've all forgotten the purpose of your cultivation. You're cultivating to become strong and to live forever. You're not born to be warriors. You can also pursue the path of cultivation. Are there ordinary people who can come to the Scattered Stars Island? You're all heavenly talents and used to be the pride of countless people. Why do you not have the ambition to make progress now? Yu Lingyun said, Who says we don't? We work hard to kill enemies and earn points for growth. This is also an experience. Someone said, Yes. We've always been getting stronger. Someone smiled and said, Captain Han, we used to be frontline warriors. It was because of our excellent performance that we became senior scouts. Han Fei sneered. Do you think this is fast? Do you think this is excellent? Immediately, Han Fei stretched out his hand and stabbed 30 blue sea wandering dragon daggers into the ground. Then, the blood-drinking knife hung on his waist, the water-dividing seal in his left hand, the brick in his right hand, and an ultra-quality battle suit appeared on his body. Han Fei pointed to the gorgeous equipment on his body and said, You call that excellent? That's what I call excellent. Then, Han Fei glanced at Cao Qiu and gave him a hint. Cao Qiu immediately took the hint, and with a swish, an ultra-quality armor. The armor that even covered his head wrapped his whole body. Then he stabbed a big shield into the ground, and in his hand was an ultra-quality long knife with a blue phantom on it. Han Fei said, Look, this is excellent. At that time, the people of the 8th Battalion were blinded by so many ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Cao Qiu was stunned and thought to himself, Han Fei's outfit is not bad. He can even compare with me. Han Fei was also shocked. This guy didn't even wear a fucking battle suit but put on armor? Someone said, Captain Han, aren't you bullying us? We are all ordinary people. How can we get so many spiritual weapons? And all of them have sealed spirits. Someone smiled bitterly. Captain Han, don't show off like this. Han Fei sneered again. Do you think my family gave me these clothes? I, Han Fei, was born in a small village. How could my family have the ability to make me this outfit? Someone didn't believe him. Didn't you say you have an elder? Han Fei nodded. Yes, I have an elder, but why would an elder help you? Han Fei put away these ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Let me tell you, when I only had low-quality spiritual weapons, I tried to get mid-quality spiritual weapons. When I have mid-quality spiritual weapons, I will find a way to get high-quality spiritual weapons. When I have high-quality spiritual weapons, I will get ultra-quality ones. Later, I will get divine weapons. How? Secret realms, killing the enemy, looting. Looting the enemy. Han Fei said earnestly, I got these by myself. Now you all have ready-made 3-star refiners here. Shouldn't each of you get an ultra-quality spiritual weapon? When you have an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, you have to find a way to get a second one. If you have weapons, you can get clothes. If you have clothes, you can get shoes. If you have shoes, you can get a helmet. As long as you can make sure you don't die, you can get anything. How to make sure you don't die? Of course, you have to get more and more ultra-quality equipment to protect yourself, right? In the beginning, Han Fei was still talking. A quarter of an hour later, the entire 8th Battalion had begun to line up. Han Fei was taking a small notebook and writing. Well, Lu Yang of the 7th Squad, 1 ultra-quality green sword. Zhang Yang of the 9th Squad, 1 ultra-quality tortoise shield. Su Ying of the 10th Squad, 1 ultra-quality battle suit. Cao Qiu was already dumbfounded. Weren't they talking nicely just now? Why are they all running to me on credit now? The 3rd chapter? Asking for votes. Add chapters at the normal time at night. Don't rush me, don't rush me. I have to write. I'm not a robot with no soul. My thoughts can't keep racing like a small motor. End of this chapter. Chapter 636. Han Fei's dream finally came true. On the first day when he became the deputy captain of the 8th Battalion, all the members became his core customers. The big business of 287 ultra-quality spiritual weapons allowed Han Fei to earn nearly 500,000 points a day. This was the first day, and more people paid Han Fei with materials and spiritual spring. All the materials added up were actually enough for Han Fei to refine more than 400 ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Of course, Han Fei didn't pay nothing. Even with the income from the spiritual spring, Han Fei estimated that he still had to pay 80 million points of spiritual energy to complete so many orders. In fact, Han Fei only got a lot of points and more than 100 ultra-quality spiritual weapon materials. After registering the account book, Han Fei immediately shouted, "Everyone!" Han Fei said loudly, "Everyone, your Captain Chow said last night that for the sake of everyone's safety, he can provide each of you with a vial of the strongest poison in history for free, known as the Poison King. A single drop of it can make creatures above level 40 lose their combat power. Let's welcome Captain Chow's poison with a round of applause." Clap, clap, clap. In an instant, thunderous applause broke out. Someone grinned. "Captain Chow, good job." Someone sighed. "How powerful is the poison that can force the heavenly talents of the 1,000-star city to retreat?" Someone smiled. Good. Today, I have one more trump card." "Captain Chow, you are so kind." Chow Chio was stunned and then said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "When did I say I was going to give the Poison King to him?" Han Fei replied, "You are new here and are not familiar with the place. I'm afraid you won't be convinced. I'm just thinking for you. After giving the Poison King to him, you can say that you have lost all your money and are going to sell poison. In this way, you won't have to go to the battlefield, right?" Hearing this, Chow Chio felt that it was true, but he still felt that he had been cheated. Yes, Chow Chio felt that he must have been cheated. Han Fei had made a lot of money for himself, but he sold himself. Damn it. For 7 days in a row, Han Fei handed the entire 8th Battalion to Chow Chio, saying that he was going to find someone to help him refine these ultra-quality spiritual weapons quickly. And Chow Chio was a lazy person, so it was impossible for him to go to sea. He boasted that he had used up all of his King of Poisons and that he needed to invent a God of Poisons to poison the entire skeleton shore. As a matter of fact, the two of them slipped away on the first day of their official assignment, leaving the people of the 8th Battalion trembling in fear. Many people couldn't help but wonder, will Han Fei run away with the money? Almost half of everyone's belongings had been handed over to Han Fei, and they didn't even have a single cent of points left. As a result, the entire 8th Battalion was now a pauper. Each and every one of them owed a huge debt. As a result, the 8th Battalion no longer had any rest days, and no one gambled anymore. Every morning and night, there would be people wandering along the coast. It wasn't common to see 300 people come out in full force. The 8th Battalion, which had suddenly erupted, spent 7 days to dig out all the creatures that could be taken from the skeleton shore and turn them into points. At this moment, 200 kilometers away from the skeleton shore, Han Fei was hiding at the bottom of the sea, holding a fish skin map in his hand, and a level 44 creature was chained to his feet. This Zhao Qi needed a poison ink octopus as an artifact spirit. A big client with a creature above level 40. "I'll seal it," after a moment. A level 39 arrow heart shell. "It should be this one. I'll seal it." "Oh. This seems to be a level 43 sand skin shrimp, a big client. I'll seal it." Yes, Han Fei pretended to find someone to refine weapons, but in fact, he came to the sea alone to seal creatures. Of course, he wouldn't go to the Scattered Stars 4th unit to ask for help. He was a diligent and thrifty person, so he naturally had to do this kind of small task of finding a sealed creature by himself. When Han Fei was about to find a blue spirit shrimp, his face suddenly changed slightly. Am I going to make a breakthrough? Han Fei was overjoyed. The upper limit of his spiritual energy had finally reached a limit. The surging of spiritual energy in his body was a sign of a natural breakthrough. Immediately, Han Fei called out the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, little gold, little fatty, little black, and little white. Han Fei instructed, "Protect me. I'm going to make a breakthrough." Han Fei had been waiting for this for a long time. Although this breakthrough was not perfect, he was one step closer to becoming a hanging fisher. If he went one step further, he could continue to deduce the 5th level of the void fishing art. At that time, if possible, his indestructible body could be further improved, and he should be a little closer to the triple barrier that Ren Tianfen mentioned. At the bottom of the sea, Han Fei set up a concealment array and a defense array, put on a layer of 6 spirits armor, and sat cross-legged. At that moment, spiritual energy suddenly gathered from the sea within a radius of dozens of kilometers. In Forge the Universe, 10 high-quality spiritual stones were broken at once. The moment Han Fei made a breakthrough, more than 200 kilometers away from the skeleton shore, nearly 300 kilometers away, a lot of big sword water fleas, tide-calling crabs, bone corrosion worms, and other creatures drilled out from the ground in all directions. Little Black rushed out immediately. Every time he opened his mouth, a creature would die. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp's 9-star chain swept across, protecting Han Fei. Little Gold was like a blade warrior. His wings had turned into sharp blades, and he was killing the bone-eroding worms with ease. Little Fatty was the laziest, lying on the ground reluctantly. However, whenever a creature approached, it would immediately entangle it with its tentacles and suck it to death. 3 legendary creatures and 1 mysterious creature, Little Black, were almost invincible in the coastal waters. However, Han Fei chose to make a breakthrough in the sea. If it were anyone else, it would be very dangerous to make a breakthrough in the sea. Because once spiritual energy gathered, it would inevitably attract a large number of marine creatures. This was impossible. Half an hour after Han Fei chose to make a breakthrough, a fishing boat passed by in the sky. On the fishing boat, the members of the 12th Squad of the 8th Battalion looked at each other in bewilderment. Liang Qiu, the captain, looked puzzled. There is a creature at the bottom of the sea making a breakthrough. However, my perception seems to be blocked. There should be an array protecting it. A team member was shocked. Could it be a sea demon? Only sea demons would choose to make a breakthrough in the sea. Someone pointed to the sea and said, "Look, the creature below seems to be very strong. Within 100 meters, there are broken limbs and wreckage. There seems to be some kind of fierce battle below." A team member suddenly exclaimed, "Look, that's a 3-headed shark. It was strangled to death by an underwater creature." Everyone's face darkened. The 3-headed shark was a very strong and rare creature, at least level 45. But the 3-headed shark was not the only creature that died here. Basalt conches, arrow heart shells, snake pattern fish, fiery fish. All of them died. Liang Qiu shouted, "Let's go back and report." "Captain, but Captain Han and Captain Chao are not here." Liang Qiu frowned. Han Fei must have gone to refine weapons. But Chao Qiu, isn't he refining poison not far from the camp? Pull him out and hold him off first. Not long after Liang Qiu and the others left, under the water, a hand suddenly grabbed a harpoon, and with a backhand, the harpoon shot back. The harpoon broke through the air and appeared in front of an inferior manfish in the blink of an eye. However, like spiritual energy, the harpoon didn't bite its master. Therefore, the moment it hit the inferior manfish, it melted into its body. However, what followed the harpoon was a knife light, which was the draw technique of the blood-drinking knife. Before the inferior manfish had time to run, it was cut into 2 pieces. Han Fei saw several other inferior manfish in the distance, quickly disappearing from his sight. He didn't stop them. It was said that inferior manfish were common creatures in the level 3 fishery. Even if they ran away, it shouldn't be a big problem. On his wrist, the demon purification pot was crazily absorbing the nearby spiritual energy. Han Fei stood where he was, and a string of information popped up. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 39, peak level dangling fisher, spiritual energy greater than 182,655, 7668, spiritual power 1299/1299, perception range greater than 9,999 meters, spiritual heritage level 5, high quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 36. Main art, void breaking technique, volume 4 of void fishing, demon level, divine quality, Han Fei was stunned to find that his upper limit of spiritual energy had increased by more than 600 points. Can I have an upper limit of 8,000 points of spiritual energy when I become a hanging fisher? As far as Han Fei knew, the upper limit of spiritual energy represented the strength of the body and the standard of spiritual energy it could hold. But not everyone would have a stronger physique with a higher upper limit. For example, Han Fei asked Xia Xiaochan what the upper limit of spiritual energy was when she was a peak-level dangling fisher, and Xia Xiaochan answered that it was a little more than 5,000 points. Although it hadn't reached the upper limit, it could probably reach about 5,500 points, which was already extremely rare for a genius. But was Xia Xiaochan's physique strong? Of course not. What was terrifying about Xia Xiaochan was her instantaneous explosive power. Her mobilization and eruption of spiritual energy were much stronger than others. Han Fei couldn't help murmuring, "My upper limit is quite high. What I've become stronger is my physique, meridians, and the purity of spiritual energy. It should be not much different from others, but I don't know what it's like when I become a hanging fisher. I have to go back and ask." 7 days passed in a flash. When Han Fei came back, the entire camp of the 8th Battalion was empty as if it had been abandoned. Han Fei immediately rushed to the coast. As soon as he arrived there, he heard someone arguing on the watchtower not far away. "It's my turn. It's time to scavenge the sea." "It's my turn. Didn't you just go there 3 hours ago?" "I haven't been there for 10 hours. "What are you talking about? You changed the time with me before. Have you forgotten?" "Brother, I only got 2,000 points in 7 days. How can it be enough for me to pay back the money?" "Brother, I sympathize with you, but I can't help you. I only got 1,500 points in 7 days. Who am I going to cry to?" "Forget it. Let's play rock, paper, scissors. After all, the watchtower can't be empty. A few days ago, there was an abnormal movement 300 kilometers away. Maybe something will happen in the next few days. If we fail to do our duty, we'll be doomed." Just when the two were arguing, they heard Han Fei shouting below, "Hey! Where is everyone? Where is everyone?" The two of them looked down and were immediately startled. "Captain Han, you're back?" The other person's eyes flickered. "Captain Han, could it be? How is it possible? Has it been refined?" Han Fei said haggardly, "Of course, you don't know how many connections I made. In just 7 days, he had refined nearly 300 supreme-grade spiritual weapons. Do you know how tired I am? Alas. Hurry up and call everyone back. It's time to distribute the spiritual weapons." A chapter of more than 3,000 words. Now the average word count is about 3,000. The next chapter will be about 10 o'clock. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 637. The two people on the watchtower were dumbfounded. After a long time, they picked up the conch horn excitedly and blew it. After a moment, under the watchtower, 252 people gathered here, and the scene was quite chaotic. "Captain Han, have you really refined it? Captain Han, hurry up. I can't wait." All of them have sealed their spirits? Seeing this group of people so excited, Han Fei couldn't help asking, "Where are the others? Why haven't they come?" A captain smiled bitterly. "Half of the rest are scouting at sea, and the other half have diarrhea." "Huh!" Han Fei was stunned. "Diarrhea?" Someone immediately shook his head. "Captain Han, Captain Chow is really scary. 2 days ago, Liang Qiu, the captain of the 12th squad, detected abnormal movements in the sea. You were not there at that time, so she naturally went to find Captain Chow. Guess what? Before she went to Captain Chow, she was poisoned one by one. It has been the 3rd day." Speaking of Chow Qiu, many people looked horrified. At this moment, no one doubted that he was very poisonous. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Didn't Chow Qiu give them the antidote? Someone smiled bitterly. How could there be an antidote? When Liang Qiu and the others were poisoned, Captain Chow said that the antidote hadn't been made yet. Fortunately, only a little bit of poisonous gas escaped, and we could barely resist it with the anti-poison fruit. Now Captain Chow is trying his best to make the antidote, hoping to save Liang Qiu and the others as soon as possible. Hearing this, Han Fei decided to forget it. He'd better not see Chao Qiu these days. You haven't even made the damn antidote, but you have already thrown out the poison. Is this reasonable? Han Fei didn't care anymore. As he waved his hand, a pile of ultra-quality spiritual weapons fell to the ground with a clatter. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Because many of them are advanced spiritual weapons with sealed spirits, they are full of spiritual energy. At this moment, a few spiritual weapons are shaking consciously and seem to want to escape. Han Fei immediately raised his hand, and the embroidery needle was pressed against the pile of spiritual weapons, making them unable to move. Han Fei said, "Now I'm going to report your names one by one. Come one by one and give me your points in the past few days. You don't know how poor I am." Captain Han, we are also poor. We're working hard to earn points. Captain Han, don't panic. With an ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed soul, our ability to earn points will be brought to a new level. Seeing the bitterness on Han Fei's face, someone comforted him like this, thinking to himself, I can't let this rich captain collapse. However, they had no idea that Han Fei was already overjoyed. He was thinking that it was too easy to make money. Su Ying, I accidentally found an ice crystal shellfish and sealed it in your battle suit. You've made a fortune. Thank you, Captain Han. These are my points. I only have 2,100 points for now. I'll go earn more. Han Fei collected the points calmly and then continued, Wang Chao, according to what you said, tuna is hard to find. The price I charged you was too low. Wang Chao was grinning from ear to ear. Captain Han, don't panic. These are my points. I only have 2,300 for now. However, I got 100 caddies of spirit spring water today. I'll give it all to you. Han Fei took it calmly. Okay, next. After a while, Han Fei saw that the number on his waist tag had become 1,165,820 points. In just 7 days, although he had spent a lot of points, he had earned points really fast. In just a few days, he had already earned more than 1 million points. Wouldn't I be rich in a month? Han Fei thought that he should go to Quang Quang in a few days and ask him if he could get the 1,000 poison fruit at a cheaper price. That thing was much stronger than the 1,000 poison fruit and the venomous tulip. A spiritual fruit was worth 8 million points. What did 8 million points mean? In theory, it could be exchanged for a centurion. The price of a 7-star waist tag could only buy one fruit. How exaggerated was this? However, its quality was really shocking. It was said to be immune to all poisons, which showed its effect. On this side, a large number of people were refining their ultra-quality spiritual weapons, and a few people hadn't finished refining yet. Those who had already refined were showing off their weapons crazily. Someone shouted, Look, my poisonous ink octopus can even make spiritual weapons poisonous. Someone sneered. That's nothing. Look at mine. It even has a spiritual stab. Someone laughed. No matter how powerful it is, it can't break my ultra-quality battle suit. Just when everyone was making a fuss, suddenly, they saw someone controlling a fishing boat to fly back quickly. Come on, manfish, the manfish are coming. Lu Bin, the captain of the 7th squad, was shouting. After seeing Han Fei, he jumped down directly. Lu Bin looked horrified. Captain Han, a large group of manfish is rushing over, carrying tens of thousands of blue-patterned armored shrimps. They are charging. Han Fei's face changed. How many manfish are there? How did they get here? Lu Bin shrugged. As far as I can see, there are hundreds of them. Han Fei immediately shouted, Release level 1 red smoke and ask for reinforcements. Everyone get on the fishing boat and attack with me. By the way, someone go and call Chao Qiu. Tell him that if he doesn't come, I will stuff him into the mouth of the manfish. Han Fei was in a bad mood. I've just given out all the supreme-grade spiritual weapons, and these people are all my big customers now. You're telling me the Murlocs are charging now? What if these people died at that time? On the fishing boat, Han Fei said to everyone, Fight in the sky. Armorists, protect your teammates. Remember to use the Poison King in your hands. Remember to save your life first. Han Fei was the first to rush out. His perception range was wider. If they were just ordinary inferior manfish, he wouldn't be afraid. He could rush into the formation with the infinity water alone and poison them to death. Yu Lingyun chased after him. "Captain, why are you running so fast alone?" Wu Xiaoxiao said, "Captain, we are a team." Han Fei nodded. "I'll go explore the way first. You stay in the rear. Be careful." The fishing boat broke through the sky and went 150 kilometers away, where Han Fei found a large number of blue and white striped crabs. On these big crabs, a few manfish looked up at the sky, and some manfish shot at him with harpoons. Han Fei sneered. "Level 45 inferior manfish, they're not friendly." Han Fei was naturally not afraid of inferior manfish of this level. He ignored those harpoons and rushed all the way to the rear of the army of manfish, until a flash of red light broke through the air. That terrifying speed was in front of him in the blink of an eye. The ordinary fishing boat that Han Fei was using had a big hole drilled out. If Han Fei hadn't dodged quickly, this harpoon would have fallen on him. "Damn asshole, you forced me to do this." The red demon was extremely strong, but judging from the strength of the harpoon just now, this manfish shouldn't be more than level 50. Immediately, Han Fei's fishing boat turned, and heavy rain fell from the sky and the Poison King poured down. Giggle, hearing the red demon's cry, the blue-patterned armored lobsters dived one after another, and the ordinary inferior manfish jumped into the water one after another. Han Fei frowned. Does this red demon know that I'm going to release poison? However, Han Fei was not afraid at all. "Do you think my infinity water is like heavy rain? With a thought, I can turn the sea into knives." Han Fei leaped into the air and plunged into the sea. At the moment Han Fei entered the water, the seawater turned into knives, stretching for 100 meters. As soon as Han Fei entered the water, 7 or 8 harpoons shot at him. However, with the protection of the ultra-quality battle suit and the 6-spirit armor, Han Fei simply ignored these attacks and swam wildly in the water. However, in less than 10 minutes, the red demon had already swum to 100 meters away from Han Fei. While tentatively attacking the infinity water, it stared at Han Fei. Han Fei sneered. "Come on. If you don't come, I'll kill your army first." The Poison King had covered a lot of blue-patterned armored lobsters through the infinity water. Although the carapace of this kind of lobster was particularly hard, it couldn't withstand the internal melting. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of blue-patterned armored shrimps were killed, but none of the inferior manfish were hit. Under the command of the red demon, they all stayed far away from Han Fei. Han Fei was speechless. "Am I a scourge? I'm just a peak-level dangling fisher. Why are you hiding from me?" Suddenly, Han Fei's heart trembled. "Oh no, does this red demon know me?" As soon as this idea came out, Han Fei was shocked. Could it be that he was too arrogant during the tide of red ghosts and was noticed by a red demon who was secretly observing him? The more Han Fei thought about it, the more likely it was. Looking at the invasion of the inferior manfish. 10,000 blue-patterned armored lobsters and 100 inferior manfish came to attack the skeleton shore? That was absolutely impossible, but the other parties still came, which meant, was this a test? Damn it. Han Fei immediately jumped out of the sea and shouted to the fishing boats of the 8th Battalion that had already flown over, "Stay in the sky and fight the enemy with fishing skills." However, when the captains of the 8th Battalion saw that there were not many inferior manfish, they immediately looked overjoyed. "They only have this many in total. Brothers, let's kill them." For the 8th Battalion, 10,000 blue-patterned armored lobsters were not weak, but they were not afraid of them. Besides, Han Fei had already run into the sea. Of course, they thought this attack was not that powerful. But just when someone was about to dive down, a red figure also jumped out of the water and shot the harpoon in his hand at a captain. Swish! The battle soul bow was drawn, and the spiritual energy arrow turned into a stream of light and shot the red demon's harpoon away with a bang. Han Fei said angrily, "I told you to surround them, not to rush down. If anyone disobeys my order again, I will never refine weapons for him again. In fact, when they saw the red demon, the people who were about to dive down immediately flew up. The red demon was not something they could deal with now. Han Fei pointed his arrow at the red demon. Just you. How dare you ruin my plan? You and these damn crabs won't be able to leave today. A 3,000-word chapter. Please wait for tomorrow. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 638. As far as Han Fei's current strength was concerned, the control range of the infinity water was limited. Once it exceeded 500 meters, it would be difficult for it to work. So, Han Fei stacked his fists and rushed at the red demon. But to Han Fei's surprise, when the red demon saw Han Fei coming, it didn't fight Han Fei at all but kept condensing seawater spears and shooting them at Han Fei. After all, it was a strong inferior manfish, and Han Fei didn't use his full strength. The two ran in the sea one after the other. The red demon didn't intend to fight Han Fei, and Han Fei's purpose was not to fight but to stall this red demon and prevent it from attacking the other people of the 8th Battalion. As for the remaining inferior manfish, Han Fei was confident that they didn't have the ability to slaughter the 8th Battalion. After all, the 8th Battalion had nearly 300 people, all of whom were hanging fishers. Now that they had ultra-quality spiritual weapons, they wouldn't be afraid of 100 inferior manfish. Just as Han Fei was chasing, Cao Qiu had already flown over with his fishing boat. This guy flew high and didn't intend to participate in the battle at all. Han Fei immediately shouted to him, "Go control the situation, command the battle, and pay attention to whether there is a second red demon. When the rescue comes, I will stall this red demon." Hearing this, Cao Qiu quickly responded, Okay. Just do your thing. Don't worry about me." After a while, Han Fei and the red demon had chased 100 kilometers away, and the distance between the two was still more than 800 meters. The red demon's level was too high, so Han Fei didn't plan to let Little Black attack it. Han Fei said to it via voice transmission, "Do you know how to talk? You came here to test me this time, right? How is it? What's the result?" The red demon muttered something to Han Fei, which made Han Fei's head hurt. "Don't talk nonsense to me. I don't understand. By the way, why do you know me?" "Gulyalu," Han Fei sneered. "If you keep talking to me, I will go back. Tell me, what's your purpose in luring me here?" Han Fei was perceiving the surroundings and making sure there was no ambush around, so he wasn't afraid of a red demon. If this guy had broken through level 50, Han Fei wouldn't have come out with it. But an inferior manfish equivalent to a peak-level hanging fisher couldn't kill him in one blow. As long as it couldn't kill him in one blow, it would be easy for him to escape. "Gulyalu," Han Fei said angrily, "I've told you that I don't understand you at all. Just shut up." Suddenly, Han Fei perceived that a half-mermaid was swimming close from 5,000 meters away. Han Fei's face changed slightly and he quickly retreated. It was fine if the inferior manfish came, but if the real mermaids came, he would have to deal with them carefully. While Han Fei was flying back, a voice sounded in his mind, "Human." Han Fei's expression changed. Han Fei's words. Fei's words. Han Fei immediately rushed back, jumped out of the water, and got on the fishing boat. The moment he returned to the battlefield, Han Fei roared, "Everybody, retreat to within 50 kilometers of the shore and obey my orders." From Han Fei, but the manfish, the demon for him. As Han Fei from Han Shao as he is. The leader was a peak-level hanging fisher. He glanced at Han Fei. "Wu Yong of the 92nd Guards Regiment, why did you retreat?" "I'm afraid there's an ambush. There's more than one red demon." Wu Yong's face changed and he immediately shouted, "Everyone retreat." Then Wu Yong came to Han Fei. "How many? Where are they?" Han Fei looked back. "If my guess is correct, there should be a sea demon at the level of a hidden fisher." I retreated quickly. "I think it should be a trap." Wu Yong's face changed drastically. "A hidden fisher-level sea demon? Then we have to call for reinforcements." Han Fei shook his head. "Not yet. Let's see if they chase after us. In the distance, the red demon stood on the sea, looking at them coldly, with no intention of coming over. Han Fei and Wu Yong's eyes narrowed. Both of them saw a figure underwater, quickly swimming to the deep sea. Until the figure left, the red demon got into the water and followed. Wu Yong took a deep breath. Did you meet that one? Han Fei shook his head. No, but I sensed it. I'm fast, so I ran faster. Han Fei didn't tell them that it was a half-mermaid, let alone that the half-mermaid wanted to talk to him. For some reason, he felt that this matter was strange. Why did the half-mermaid come to him? Why did it want to talk to him? What the hell? From 5,000 meters away, it could perceive him and send him a voice transmission, which showed that the half-mermaid was definitely much stronger than the red demon. Although he had become a peak-level dangling fisher, he had no confidence in facing a hidden fisher-level creature, let alone fighting it. Therefore, no matter whether the half-mermaid really wanted to talk to him or if it was just a trap, he wouldn't stay there. However, now that the half-mermaid and the red demon had left, the attack of the inferior manfish this time had been confirmed to be a test. Those ordinary inferior manfish and blue-patterned armored lobsters were just cannon fodder for the test. Therefore, Han Fei ordered the whole army to attack. With Han Fei's order, the members of the 8th Battalion jumped into the sea one after another. Little fish, I'll kill you. Have a taste of the big axe I just got. My ultra-quality rod is invincible. Next door, the members of the 92nd Garrison Regiment were all stunned. In mid-air, on the sea, there were flashing lights everywhere. In the hands of all the members of the 8th Battalion, spiritual energy radiated everywhere, and the phantoms of sea creatures were flying in the air. Wu Yong of the 92nd Garrison Regiment looked at Han Fei in astonishment. Did your 8th Battalion pick up a treasure? Han Fei said leisurely, No, I've just been promoted to a level 3 refiner. Now there is a discount for refining. Brother Wu, how about a 20% discount for your regiment? It's cheap. Wu Yong's eyes flickered. Wow, a 3-star refiner? Han Fei winked. What do you think? Are you tempted, Brother Wu? I'm only doing this because we're allies. Wu Yong took a deep breath. The garrison regiment's main purpose is to gain experience. Besides, don't give them a 20% discount. Even if you gave them a 50% discount, they wouldn't be able to afford it. Han Fei nodded. I can buy on credit. Wu Yong paused and pondered for a while. Okay, I'll think about it. Just as Han Fei was about to continue persuading them, there was a sudden noise. Under the full fire of the 92nd Garrison Regiment and the 8th Battalion, they were wiped out in less than half an hour. As for casualties? A group of cannon fodder was not enough to cause so many casualties in the 8th Battalion. After the battle, the 8th Battalion began to have internal strife. Someone shouted, Mine, this inferior manfish is mine. Someone fought for it. What do you mean by yours? I hacked it to death just now. It's mine. Someone held 3 or 4 harpoons in his hand. I snatched these. Don't take them. Someone collected dozens of blue-patterned armored shrimps with his sea-swallowing seashell and fought with the person next to him, because that person said he killed half of them. Wu Yong's eyelids twitched when he saw this scene. Fuck, what about ours? Han Fei quickly coughed a few times. Discipline, discipline? Do you want to make fun of us? Then Han Fei looked at Wu Yong. Well, how about 70%? Wu Yong was just here to go through the motions, so he didn't fight much. He thought for a moment and nodded. No problem. But you have to be careful. There seems to be something wrong with this attack. The red demons have appeared. There must be something on the skeleton shore that they are targeting. Be careful. Han Fei nodded. Brother Wu, think about it. Wu Yong left, not daring to answer Han Fei's words. They belonged to different groups and had different natures. It would be a lie to say that he was not tempted, but he had to consider the actual situation. How could he expect a group of soldiers with no stars and 1-star ranks to buy an ultra-quality spiritual weapon with a sealed spirit? He had long known that Zhong Han, who was stationed in the 8th Battalion, had been transferred away, and that he had been taken over by an advanced dangling fisher and a junior hanging fisher. Today, It seemed that Han Fei had made a breakthrough. Besides, facing 2 red demons, he was able to escape safely. Obviously, he was very strong and should be a capable person. Looking at the luxurious equipment of the 8th Battalion, he was stunned. Therefore, he was more polite to him. At this moment, Chao Qiu flew down from the sky and landed beside Han Fei. Is it over? Originally, I wanted to try out my new poison. Han Fei rolled his eyes at him. Have you developed the antidote? Chao Qiu scratched his head. Not yet. About 80% of the antidote. Han Fei was speechless. Give me some poison god later. You can continue to study the antidote. Then Han Fei shouted to everyone. Today, everyone has come out and the danger has been lifted. Let's clean up the periphery of the skeleton shore and kill as many as we can. But that's great. Let's test the weapon. More than 300 hanging fishers plunged into the sea one after another. This battle was a hardy one. Hundreds of inferior manfish and nearly 5,000 blue-patterned armored shrimps in perfect condition were simply a godsend. In this battle alone, they had earned nearly 300,000 points, and on average, each person could get about 1,000 points. Coupled with the hunting of all the members of the 8th Battalion, they could get nearly 1,500 points today. Of course, no matter how they divided the points and how they hunted, all the points belonged to Han Fei, and they were still poor. After sending Chao Qiu away, Han Fei hung in the sky alone, deep in thought. Wu Yong's words reminded him. He had never heard of a red demon coming to the skeleton shore before. Wasn't it said that the inferior manfish of that level were thousands of miles away from the coast or even farther? Han Fei suddenly thought of something. Did the inferior manfish see me when I made the breakthrough 2 days ago? But I just made a breakthrough. So what if they saw me? Could this also attract creatures at the level of the red demon? The more Han Fei thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. If the red demon really noticed this place, there was no reason for it to end after just a test. There must be a second wave. Thinking of this, Han Fei immediately prepared to send a voice transmission to the others. However, when he perceived, there were less than 30 people left within 5,000 meters of him. Han Fei gritted his teeth. They were all crazy poor. Han Fei immediately sent a voice transmission, controlled the fishing boat to swing around, and sent a voice transmission to the others one by one. Gather at the camp, gather at the camp. The first chapter. More than 3,000 characters. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.